And she says, "Oh, this game's great. You want to try it?" And I said, "No, it looks like it sucks." Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the RFGeneration Playcast. I'm GreyGhost81 and this is our year-end episode celebrating all the playthroughs of 2015. All four of your hosts are on the call for this one. I will be joined by Rich, Steven, and Floyd, and first we will discuss playing Contra, Rolling Thunder 2, and Metal Slug 3 for the December run-and-gun competition. Then, we'll hash out our picks for the best and worst games and playthroughs spanning the entire year of 2015. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter, where our handle is @RFGPlaycast. You can also listen to the show on Podbean and iTunes. Most importantly, don't forget to log on to rfgeneration.com to join our playthroughs and discuss the incredible games we play together. Thank you as always for listening, and now, on with the Playcast.
Google Doc here. All right.
Rich, your accent comes out after you've had a few.
Does it really? Am I gonna have to watch that?
Let me get my Google Doc here.
The little scotch just relaxes me a little bit. So, yeah.
Just a little.
I'm always like, it's always funny when I hear Steven. I'm like, there's no way Steven's from Atlanta. So.
I worked pretty hard I made a conscious decision when I was young to not have a southern accent, so...
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty...
I was like, I'm going to talk like a normal person.
And here I am trying to say y'all as much as I can.
Well, it's funny, isn't
Texas now.
Yeah, I know it's funny, isn't it? Because when we started out, it was two guys from Canada, it was a guy from Jersey, and a guy from the South. And now it's three guys from the South. Or not, well, three guys in the South, I guess.
Yeah.
And then... and two actually from, and then one guy from Canada, so it's pretty funny. We ended up that way. We've converted more, so. But,
right
we're probably the most linguistically diverse podcast.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Four guys that speak English?
So, yeah, I mean, this is the most fun I have podcasting throughout the year. I mean, doing this December episode because I really, really love doing this and talking about our favorite games. Yeah, we've all kind of, I think, spoken about this on the threads, right? And in our group meet chats and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess it's fun because we don't have to do so much research or anything like that, or worry that we might leave something out. We can just kind of talk about the games and how we really feel about them, and tell everyone which ones we love, which ones we didn't love, and so that's just a lot of fun. But before we get started on our top 5, I guess we'll just kind of dive right into December, where our generation, we decided to have the running gun competition this year. We always do sort of a different type of competition. One year we did Streets of Rage. I can't remember who won that. Does anybody remember who won that Streets of Rage competition?
I don't know. I hear he's a very handsome guy, though.
And I hear he's probably going to come in second place in this run and gun competition.
I don't know. I've been hearing some talk. He might surprise you again.
Holding back on me.
Oh, jeez.
And then last year we did shmups, didn't we? And we all got smoked by Metal Fro, one of our members, who's actually participating in the run and gun competition this year. And before we get too far, I'll just go ahead and announce the participants that we've got. And I should mention we're playing Contra, Rolling Thunder 2, and Metal Slug 3. But our participants are, of course, Disposed Hero. Dougly007's been playing. Father Jack, he's one of our members from over the pond, and he's been putting up some great scores for both games, and it's really nice having him along playing. Of course, Floyd's playing with us. Shawn, you're playing some games with us this month, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Metal Fro. Project Nintendo said he was playing, hasn't quite checked in yet, but of course, this is early in the month that we're podcasting. Myself, Sir Psycho, and we've got one guy playing Watts WC. It's a guy, Will, who has become a friend of the show that I've met over Twitter, and a really nice guy. Always has some really great things to say about our show and about video gaming in general. He's a big listener to the Collector Cast as well, so happy to have him along and glad he joined RF Generation. He's a big Sega collector, so you guys will really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody caught my joke that I made about him. When he posted his first score for Contra, you could see the reflection in his TV of a shirtless, buff guy taking the picture.
He's ripped, dude. He's really ripped.
I asked on the forum, and I didn't get an answer whether he was cosplaying as Bill or Lance in that picture. So
I didn't
I
guess
saw
that.
it. I got a chuckle out of that, but I didn't.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody saw it. Thanks. But
yeah, he's a great guy, and his girlfriend actually is I don't know if you guys have seen her videos on YouTube. She runs a channel called Cannot Be Tamed, and she does. You should check out her playthrough videos. I mean, they're really great, and actually, she's the one that kind of got me into purchasing Rule of Rose. She did a playthrough, and I watched about 2 videos, and I was like, yep. I definitely need to get this game. Seems like something I would really dig. So
I have a copy of that game.
Oh, yeah?
I wish I had done an unboxing video when I got that game, because Steven sent it to me as a surprise, and I lost my mind when I opened it.
Oh, wow.
And my wife was there, and I really wish, if I have ever done an unboxing video in my life, I should have done one on that when he sent me that game, but it's one of the crown jewels of my collection.
Yeah. Should you just, always have your camera set up so when you're opening something you have no freaking clue what it is?
I think I might do that from now on. If I get a package and I don't know what it is, I might do that. I learned a lesson that day for sure.
Yeah, I might have to do that with my Secret Santa this year.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I was considering doing that also.
Yeah, the little unboxing video for that. So, but as I said, we'll talk a little bit about the games. We're not going to go in depth like we typically do about these games, just because they're run and guns. They're, run and gun. It's not. There's not a whole lot to them other than that. So, I mean, we'll talk about several things, but really want to try to get into the top 5 list that we do every year, and that'll be the sort of meat of the show, and we'll really have a good time. So, this is a celebration. So if you hear a little clinky clink as you're listening to the show, that's it's a little
bottles
ice
popping or cans opening.
Yeah, if you hear a can popping, this is a celebration. We've had another great year, and it's cheers, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Here. Yep. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to another great year. We're going to start out well, and we'll tell you what we're playing in January at the end of the show. But first of all, let's start with Contra. That's, of course, the Nintendo version that everyone's very familiar with. The PAL release was called Probotector, and that was kind of a big deal. If you don't know, with Contra, you're playing as 2 shirtless guys running around, as we've already mentioned. But in Probotector, you play as robots, so some of the violence and some of the violent edge is sort of taken out of that. So that was there were some censorship laws in Germany around that time, and so they decided to rename it Probotector and add robots instead of humans to give it a less sort of violent feel, if you will. But let's see. It was originally released as a coin-op in February 1987, and it was called Gryzor. I think I'm pronouncing that right. In Europe, it was ported to the NES and Famicom in 1988 by Konami. The Famicom version is a little bit different. It has cutscenes and added graphical details.
Oh man, I didn't even realize that.
I know.
Do you have a copy of the Famicom version? I'm sure you do.
I do not actually,
What?
which is I know, right?
Is it hard to come by, or is it?
It's not.
Common?
This is some BS. It's the same BS you put up with in the U.S., right? It's not hard to come by, but it's the fact that it's a popular game, right?
Right. It sold 7 gazillion copies, but everybody wants it.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's like $40 to $50, which is about what a U.S. version's going for too. So, but it would be worth it. I guess I don't know. I don't like paying that much for Famicom games, but unless it's something that wasn't released in the U.S. But if I could find a copy cheap, I would, or at a good price, I'd probably pick it up. So, but let's get into it, guys. Tell us your thoughts on Contra. What do you think about the game? Anybody have any history with the game?
Oh yeah, I remember this game from when I was a kid, obviously, and listen, you guys know I'm not the nostalgia guy on RF Generation. I'm really not part of the crowd that runs in the NES circles and waxes nostalgic about, growing up with the NES, which I did, but that's just not my focus as a collector and as a gamer. But man, if I didn't have nostalgia chills playing this game, because I remember this was one of the ones that I owned, my family owned this game, and playing this game with my dad and using the 30-man code, which of course we couldn't do for this competition, but that's how most people experience the game. And man, what a good game. I mean, I definitely have it, in my history, and I remember I think I had a lot of muscle memory playing through like the first 4 or 5 levels. That helped me. But yeah, I remember playing this one with my dad a lot.
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it? I mean, like even like popping it in and playing it again, it feels incredible to play this game. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those games I could pop in at any time and just have a ball, no matter what type of mood I'm in. I feel like it's that type of game that I can do that with. So Floyd, Steven, you guys have any memories with Contra? First time you played it, do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Well, no, not really for me. I'm pretty new at it myself.
Okay.
Well, I've got a deep history that goes back to maybe 8 weeks ago. When at Retro World Expo, when we all met up in Connecticut, hung out at Bill's place for a little bit, and we spent some time on his Play Choice 10.
Sure.
That was one of the games that we played.
I think that was the only one I played. I think you and I were at his place, right? And before, well, you were there one time before I was, but when we went over to his parents' place, it's down in the basement, and the time you and I were with him, you and I played for a little while.
We played for a little bit. Played a little bit with Krabby too.
Yeah.
That was my first time playing the game. And let me tell you, I was horrible. But I'm sure everybody was the first time they played Contra.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's a tough game and it has a learning curve, but like once you master it, I'm sure it's really, really fun to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we got up to the waterfall stage.
Mm-hmm.
Krabby was doing most of the work. I can't take any credit. But yeah, no, that was a fun stage because I didn't know that if you scroll the screen up and somebody's at the bottom of the screen.
And when you say fun, you mean it sucks, right? I mean, it's one of the worst.
Yeah.
It's one of the most painful stages on the game.
Yeah, I know. Sarcasm doesn't really translate.
Right.
Yeah, but no, it still had a blast. And I mean, but watching Krabby and Duke play that game was just like, wow.
Yeah.
It's one of those games where if you watch somebody who's playing really well, or like if you watch a speedrunner or something, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
Or like a no death run, for example. Have you all ever seen one of those?
You're just
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I think like for me, and I might have mentioned this on the forums. I did. For those listening, I did post a no death run up on YouTube. You should, if anyone listening, check out our channel on YouTube, and you'll see the no death run that I posted and recorded. Not the greatest quality, but you know, it was still fun. And Steven actually posted a video too of finishing the game, which Steven, I have to admit, man, you were playing the game well because your partner was stealing some of your lives, and you still made it through, man. It was almost I mean, I think you would have made it through all the way.
I got really anxious at one point because I made it all the way to stage 7 without dying. So I was like, I'm gonna make this a no death run, and then I fell in one of the long gaps. I was like, are you kidding me? But
the hangar. Yeah, the hangar is tough. I would say the hangar and the waterfall for me are the two toughest levels, and where I tend to lose lives on the game. When I lose the majority of my lives at. But yeah, man. The 30-man code. I mean, it's interesting to talk about the 30-man code because as you guys were talking about it, I remember playing it and always remember popping in that 30-man code from the first time I ever played the game. And the game is frustrating enough to first-time players. But do you think that this game would have been as successful as it is without that 30-man code?
I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people used it to learn the game. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely, I did.
Yeah.
Same here.
I never used the 30-man code. I mean, I just had to play those first few levels, a few times before wrapping my head around the game, and I still loved it.
Well, dude, that's why you're the beast.
This because you're an android.
It's very strange playing the game without the 30-man code for the competition, and it really reminds me of Gradius, and I'm starting to really not love these competitions that we do because they're making me frustrated with games that I used to love. But but on the other hand, with Contra, I was really trying hard to beat this game without using the code, and I couldn't cut the mustard. But I have never made it through like all the way to Snowfield without dying, and I was able to do that a few times.
That's impressive, man. That's a good run.
That's really good.
Well, thank you. It's just funny. This is one of those games that to hear you guys and your different experiences. Like Steven, I know you said base 2 was really difficult for you, and to hear people having trouble with the waterfall level, like maybe it's again the muscle memory. Like I just like whiz through the first 3 levels usually, and I almost always die starting in the snowfield or like the boss of base 2 with those little homing bullets. Yeah. So. Yeah. It's a game like if I had it in my heart to really try and practice and keep going on it, I would really love to beat it without the code, and maybe I'll try again during the final week for the Battle Royale. Yeah.
I would love to pop that world record score.
I didn't realize this. 6,553,500.
That's right. It's 9 times
completing
through the
game 9 times. What was you? Now you were close to that though, weren't you?
I was 3,900,000 something. So I've done better than that before. This wasn't one of my best runs. But yeah, this was my. I was about to finish it for the 7th time. I died in the alien lair. On the 6th run through, which would have almost been 7. So
now, how do they? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
How do they judge a world? Because now we address the issue of farming on the forum because Floyd mentioned, you can farm in the waterfall level, and everybody immediately said, you know what, let's not do that.
Right.
And that actually made me kind of realize as I was playing, you could farm everywhere in this game. Like if you're in base 1, you could just farm forever. Like or even in the first level, there's places you can do it. So how do they judge like a world record run? I like, how do they negate or make it so you can't farm? You know what I mean?
You would probably die of a heart attack sitting there playing forever, trying to the small amount of points that you get from like picking off like single enemies. You get the majority of your points, and I think Steven mentioned this on the forums, from finishing the game. I think, don't you get like 500,000 for finishing the game, Steven?
That's what I think it was, because when I played it with my friend, we got a game over on the last level, and then going back through it, my score was 0 starting at the final level. So finishing the game, I had like 535,000 points or something like that. So I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, but Twin Galaxies monitors this competition. There's not a whole lot of people that have the I mean, there's several. I mean, more than many other games because the reason being is that the score stops at a certain point. It just stops. You can't get any more points. So unlike other games, where you can, there may be like a max point, but it's super difficult to obtain, and the game, locks down, or games where you can just get an infinite number of points and just keep going. But this one, it has several people have the world record. But I would like to do that at some point. But you do have to send in your, I guess your videotape copy to Twin Galaxies to do that. And they have to check it and make sure it's legit. So I don't know the rules behind that. We'd have to ask Krabby, since he has the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle speedrun record. I don't know if any of you guys knew that.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that.
I have his playing card, his Twin Galaxies playing card in my game room.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
really?
pretty cool.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. He sent it
Has
to
his
me
own
one
playing
time.
card.
He does. He's that kind of
So
guy.
he should totally go down to like Summer Games Done Quick or something.
Yeah, he definitely should, man. I mean, he's good at that. But but anyway,
I don't think I've ever seen a run of that game on AGDQ or SGDQ.
You
so
can check.
that'd be really cool.
You can check out his it's on Crabmaster 5000. It's on his YouTube page. You can watch his full run, his world record run on there. So he's got it up. So check it out.
So, wait, I just want to ask you one more question about high score and completing the game multiple times. When you do it, you played through the game 7 times.
Almost 7, right?
To get your high score. At what point do you start failing, and why? And I don't mean that as a put down. Like, why do you fail? But
that's a really good question.
Do you get bored? Do you get mentally fatigued? Like, what happens that you just can't play through the game infinitely and just complete it 50 times?
Well, there's a few things that happen. One of the things is after, I believe it's the 3rd run, you can't accumulate any more extra men. So I think you get an extra man after every 25,000 points, 20 or 25,000 points, you get an additional man. So that's one thing the game does. It shuts that off. The other thing that happens is the ads get out of control. I mean, they are running at you from all, like that waterfall stage, they're running out of the left and right just insanely at you. And if you'll note, I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes, and I don't know if they do it in their first run through, but the guys that I like to call the runners, the guys that just sort of run at you and they'll fire. Sometimes you have to duck down. Know, the kind of standard enemy on the game. They will lie down and fire, and that's really hard to navigate and negotiate through the game. Because when they lie down and fire, I mean, unless you can drop down to a different level, I mean, it's really hard to like jump when other things are coming at you from both sides that quick.
Right.
Yeah, and so it gets insane to where you're just kind of firing on both sides of the screen just in anticipation of people coming behind you and that sort of thing. So it gets unbelievably crazy as you go through the game. And that's that's kind of one of the cool things about the game, and one of the things I appreciate about it is that you're not running the same thing every time. I mean, technically you are. It's the same level, exactly the way it's set up. But it does get more difficult to try to prevent you from getting a high score. And I don't know that a lot of games at that time probably thought about that. And it's pretty neat,
Yeah, definitely.
So
that's very interesting, man. I didn't realize that. So good answer.
Yeah.
Does each loop through the game get subsequently harder?
Yes.
Or is it only after the 3rd?
No. Every loop, you'll start noticing on the 2nd. You get a few more ads. It's gradual.
Okay.
But it gets insane. It really gets nuts. And there's just bullets coming at you from everywhere. So yeah. But I'll go ahead and kind of tell you guys my history with the game as well. The first time I played this, I was at a sleepover. My soccer team was sleeping over at our town's recreation building, and of course, being during that time, everyone was so obsessed. This was, when I was really young. I don't remember what age, but around the time when Nintendo came out, everyone was so obsessed with it that somebody actually brought a 13-inch TV and their Nintendo to the sleepover, so we could stay up all night and play video games. And someone brought Contra, and someone brought Castlevania as well. Had never played either game. I just remember, they knew the 30-man code, and that's primarily what we played all night. That and Jaws. They also had Jaws. I remember that too. But that was sort of my introduction to the game. And I don't think I ever owned the game until I was probably in college. So, but that was sort of my experience with it.
So that's probably where your love for Castlevania and Contra comes from.
Sure, absolutely. That kind of one night kind of set me off with those games, and maybe even Konami,
And the rest, as they say, is history.
It is.
And can I say something
really cool, man?
Controversial right here?
Please do.
Jaws for the NES is a good game.
I love Jaws for the NES. I actually really do.
Thank you, dude.
I do. I think it's a great game.
Good. Yeah, my wife and I thoroughly enjoy that. We have a common ground on that game because she's a big Jaws fan in general, and I've always kind of defended it as a good game, and I think it's one of those revisionist history things where people kind of rag on it nowadays, but no, it's a good game.
I like it. I'm thinking we might have to do a playthrough.
Ooh
yeah.
I might be able to get
being really quiet right now.
No, I've never played it. I've seen some. I think there was like an AVGN video, and there was some other stuff I watched, and I thought it actually looked pretty decent. So
it's a good game.
I'm not surprised
It's not bad at all.
I'll get Mrs. Grey Ghost on a playthrough and on the podcast.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And they made some other Jaws. Didn't they make like a Jaws for the Xbox or something like that, or PlayStation 2?
Jaws Unleashed.
Funny story. My when I first met my wife, she was my next door neighbor, and I went over to like kind of hang out with her and her roommate at the time, and she was playing Jaws Unleashed on the PS2.
Oh, here we go.
And she says, "Oh, this game's great. You want to try it?" And I said, "No, it looks like it sucks." And
wow.
And I was just being kind of like the douchey, like cool guy, you know what I mean? Like trying to be standoffish and dickish, and that's what I ended up saying and dissing one of her favorite games, and that game also is not bad at all. So
I've never played it. I'll have to get a copy.
No, it's pretty cool.
We might have to do that. We might have to find out, when Jaws, if there's any type of anniversary coming up or anything like that. We might have to. I might have to look into that a little bit. So it's interesting. Yeah, I like Jaws, but anyway, I guess we should get back on track.
Anyway. How about Rolling Thunder? Rolling Thunder 2 for the Sega Genesis.
Absolutely. Rolling Thunder 2.
It's a run and gun.
It is. Another
It's a walking gun.
Developed by Namco. It's a sequel to 1986's Rolling Thunder. It's ported to the Genesis in 91. It's an interesting game. They actually, the Genesis is I think one of the only places that you can get other ports to 3. They did Rolling Thunder 3 on the Genesis, and that's the only place that you can play Rolling Thunder 3. I guess unless it's a part of some like compilation or something like that I don't know about. But I know 3 was only done for the Genesis. But did any of you play the original Rolling Thunder, perhaps like in the arcade or on the Nintendo or anywhere else?
I haven't. I was going to ask you guys the same thing.
No, this is my first exposure to the series. So.
Okay.
Yep, same here.
Wow. Okay. Rolling Thunder was like it was a really big thing in the arcade, and it was something I played quite a lot growing up. It was a game like as a kid that terrified me, and have you guys ever seen Rolling Thunder play the original? I know you said you hadn't played it. Have you ever watched a playthrough or anything like that?
No,
but hearing that it terrified you, I'm kind of intrigued.
That's intriguing, definitely.
Okay, well, a big change between Rolling Thunder 1 and 2 was, and let me preface this with, I'm from the South, and you may understand why it terrified me as a kid, but the second game, the characters that you fight are robotic. They're basically the same style game, but the second game, they're robotic. The first game, they're just a bunch of dudes in hoods. And so, yeah, I mean, it literally, that's what it brings up and what it makes you think of. I mean, it's guys in hoods, like, walking around and you're fighting. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, growing up in the South and in a small town, I was exposed to people like that at a very young age. Not people that I knew, but they would actually march through town where I grew up. And so playing that game for me was kind of it kind of brought kind of scary, kind of frightening memories. So
God, well, this show just took a friggin' turn.
It just got dark. Hashtag dark times.
Well, how about you can play as a female character in the second game?
You can.
You really can like that.
Yeah. And I was just
I was going to mention that.
It's a good segue.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But like I said, in the second one, and that's kind of the point I was making, is that they've changed from human characters to more sort of like robotic characters that you're fighting against. As a means to kind of tone down the violence from the first game. But like you said, yep, you can choose. This is the only game within the 3 games where you actually get a choice of characters. You get to choose the guy or the girl. And we mentioned this on the threads. Did you guys notice any difference between the 2 characters that you could use in the game?
No, I mostly used the girl, but I did try the male character once, and I didn't notice any difference.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this was just me, but I died faster as the girl.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I was distracted.
Maybe so. The first, I started playing with the girl and just continued playing as a girl, and I tried the guy one time, and I died a few times during the first level, and I just thought to myself, well, there must be something wrong with this guy, and so I went back to the girl and just kept playing as the girl.
I think everybody's going to have like the character that they just click with, and they'll stick with that person for the whole game.
Right.
And just looking on the thread, mostly everybody played as what's her name? Layla.
Yeah.
Layla. Yeah. So yeah, I actually asked on the forums, is there any difference between the 2 characters?
Yeah.
And everybody said, not that I can see.
No.
And yeah, but maybe it's just like a personal thing where they feel different to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like I was playing better with
Albatross.
The guy.
Why does he only get a cool name?
Is that a cool name? And Albatross is a bad thing, isn't that the?
No, it's actually a good thing. It's a good sign if you see like an albatross. No, you're right. It is a bad thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's what you call like a bad project at work.
It's a bad omen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bad omen. Yeah, I'm thinking about what's the Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. They see the albatross or they shoot the albatross.
That's it. Yeah, they shot the albatross,
and then everything goes to hell. Skeletons start appearing and everything. So yeah.
That was just an Iron Maiden
now I'm
song.
thinking about Iron Maiden.
No, it's not just an Iron Maiden song. It's a cool Iron Maiden song.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, fun game. Run and gun. It's a multi-tiered run and gun, so you can jump up and jump down throughout both tiers. It's sort of there's a little bit of duck and cover in the second game, which doesn't exist in the first game, which I really like. I think it's a great addition. I've played all 3 games, and I think of the 3, this is probably the one I would recommend, and why I kind of suggested playing it this month, just because it does have some great additions, and it doesn't do too much. I think the third game does a little too much, though I think Shawn would probably like the third game more because you can fire diagonally. because we've talked about.
Good to know. Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, we were PMing, and I was joking. I mean, I kind of ragged on the game in the PMs that like, it sucks, but no, it's just I think Steven even said after Contra, this game is kind of slow.
Yeah, it is
comparatively. So I only played like the first level, just kind of as homework for this podcast. But I would definitely dig a little deeper and check out the third one for sure.
Yeah, it's I think you bring up a good point about it being slower. It's definitely slower because it's a more methodical game. And Steven, I know you can probably attest to this. As you get to some of the later levels, there's these spots where you have to play them a certain way. Like you can only move like on the screen just a little bit further, and draw people out that you know are coming out. Because if you don't move to a space fast enough, you'll get shot in the foot or something like that.
Yeah, and there's like these little places, like there's like these crevices in the wall where you can sort of take cover, and then at one level in the game, or actually more than one, actually there are these enemies that'll hide in there as well, and they'll pop out and shoot you, and you have to hide in the little crevice too, and pop out at the right time so you can shoot the enemies, and it's at least a lot more methodical. It's not as fast paced as Contra.
Sure, yeah, and but I mean that's kind of the for me that's kind of the appeal to it. There's a little bit more strategy to it than there is Contra. We're just running and memorization, though this game is heavily relies on memorization, especially towards the latter levels.
That's actually why I quit playing it at stage 8, because I was already kind of frustrated with stage 7, and then stage 8 I was just like making very little progress before dying, and it was just so much trial and error, and I knew it required a lot of memorization, so I just put it down. Yeah.
Well, the good thing about this game, I love the password system on this game. Did you notice that? It's kind of like these really quirky type passwords, and it basically it doesn't keep your score. It keeps your score, until your lives end, and then you can start over at the level, and your score resets to 0. So the password system just puts you basically. It's just one password per level. So if you put in that password, you can go back and play levels again to try to get better at those levels. That's kind of what I've been doing with the playthroughs. Is I've been replaying some levels, just practicing on a few levels to try to get through them without dying so much, and then going back, starting the game over, and then trying to put it all together for a long run. And I think that's kind of the best way to approach this game. I would love to beat this game, but I don't think it's going to happen. I will be shocked if someone beats this game this month.
Yeah, I was determined, but once I got to stage 8 and how little progress I was making on each life, I just I don't know. I got pretty frustrated.
Yeah. This is the I should mention too. This is the only Rolling Thunder game where it's multiplayer. We can play 2 people at the same time, and I suggest if anyone's interested in doing any couch co-op, that you try it with this game. It has a really interesting system because when you die in the game, you have to start back over at a certain checkpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens in this game is if one of you die, if the other person makes it to that next checkpoint, then your character comes back to life. Okay, so
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's fairly neat, and it's nothing I don't think I've seen in a game before. But once you progress and push to a certain point, if you make it far enough, then they come back. If not, and you die, then you both start at that last checkpoint you were at. So it's interesting because my buddy Cameron and I were playing, and you would just, one of us would die, and we're like, oh man, you got to make it to the next checkpoint because I can continue, and we can keep playing, and you're just watching in anticipation to see if they can make it or not, so you can continue with the game. So that makes the game a lot of fun. It's a neat little addition to it. So
yeah,
I like that. Like you can kind of be like lifelines for each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like that sounds like it could be really fun.
Yeah, a little better than stealing each other's men.
Yeah, I'll have to try that. I actually didn't know this game had co-op until I started it up for the first time and saw a 2-player mode option. So
yeah,
I'll have to try it.
I didn't either, and until I think I played it 3 or 4 months ago was the first time I played it, and we ended up playing it like all night. We loved it so much, and trying to get through the game. I think we ended up making it to stage 8 before we ended up just putting it down after several points of frustration. But yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's a fun game, and I think anyone should try it out. We've got a really good competition on this game going right now. Everyone's just it's such a tight race, and it just seems like every day, because this is the one we're doing right now. This is the Rolling Thunder 2 period. And it seems like we're putting together a lot of like good scores, and everyone's like kind of leapfrogging each other back and forth, and so it's a lot of fun. Really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think people are really into this one.
Yeah,
that was a good pick.
Yeah, I'm enjoying
right
it.
On.
And I'm hoping people will enjoy our next pick as well. Our next pick was Metal Slug 3, developed by SNK. It was originally released in 2000 for the Neo Geo MVS arcade. And you can find it in various places, various collections, all the Metal Slug collections.
It's pretty much on everything.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's a sequel to Metal Slug 2 and Metal Slug X, so that's important to note. We'll just kind of talk about the game. What are some things that kind of strike you about the game? What are things you enjoy, don't enjoy about it?
Oh my God, that gorgeous SNK pixel art, man.
I know, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, that's some of the best of all time, pixel art and animation.
It's a gore fest too, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How did you?
I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the Neo Geo had some of the best looking pixel art ever.
No kidding. It's the reason people collect those cabs, you know? I mean, that's the reason. I mean, I remember like a burger joint in my old hometown somehow had a Neo Geo, and this was one of the games.
That must have been like the place to be.
It was. They had this and Baseball Stars and Magician. If you guys have never played Magician, that's a really cool game.
There's actually a Humble Bundle celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Neo Geo right now.
I saw you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. And so I think all the Metal Slugs are in there. So 1, 2, 3, X. There's like King of Fighter games in there. Oh man, there's a lot. Some of them are those like $1,000+ cartridges. So
yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I think it's $10. Like right now at the time of recording, it's $10 to get the whole bundle. Which I mean, that's worth it, man.
They even make golf cool, man. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever played Turf Masters, but that game is so awesome.
Turf Masters is in this bundle.
Yeah. Actually,
I'm gonna have to grab it, man.
You have to. I've got actually. It's called SNK Arcade Classics 1 on the Wii that has a lot of those games.
Yeah, that's a good package. I have that on the PS2.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So if you want to just try a few of the games out that were on that system, you can with any of those collections. But let's talk a little bit more about Metal Slug 3.
Yeah, how did you guys pick 3? I wasn't really involved in the selection process of the games. Like there are like 25 of these games. No, there's like 10. I mean, I'm just being silly, but like, how did you pick 3 out of all of them?
I had I did a quick Google search. I mean, we knew we wanted to play a Metal Slug game. I mean, you think about run and gun, and you think about graphically how cool they are.
Right.
You know,
and we wanted something modern.
Absolutely.
Somewhat modern to have that era represented. So
yeah, it was kind of the perfect marriage of, we found a Metal Slug game. We found a game that was on a lot of platforms, which is always good for us to max out participation. And then the other thing was I did a Google search of best Metal Slug games. I watched some videos and things like that where people talked about what their favorite was, and it was a fairly big consensus that Metal Slug X and Metal Slug 3 were the 2 favorite games, were the games that people thought were the best in the series. So we decided to go with 3 because I think it's on several more platforms than X is.
Okay, cool.
So that was my reason for going with 3. So.
And you can play as female characters.
You can.
Yay!
We get to pick from 4 characters, 2 dudes, 2 girls, and I think like the other 2 games that we played, I don't think there's any difference. I for some reason I thought there was, and I put that on the forums, and I was like, no, there's not. Right? Did you notice any differences?
Well, definitely didn't notice.
Yeah, I was playing this not too long ago, and I was kind of switching between the characters, and I wasn't noticing any differences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it's a hard game, and due to the constraints of some of the versions that people are playing, it's strange because, and I don't know why they decided to do this on releasing, but there's some systems that allow you to have infinite lives, and I think if you're going to play Metal Slug 3 and enjoy Metal Slug 3, you should play one with infinite lives. But for the purposes of the competition, we're only doing like 5 continues, and you only get 3 lives, and this is a crazy game, right?
Yeah, it is very challenging, and I'm playing on the Wii Metal Slug Anthology, which does have unlimited continues, and I found at some points I was just continuing, and again, just like Rolling Thunder 2, I was just playing this game as homework for the podcast, so I didn't get very far, and I must have continued 40 times just to get like through the first 2 levels.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's tough as hell.
I played it on my PS2 Anthology, and I was playing it on free play, and I finished the game, and it tells you how many continues you used at the end, and it was like 47 or something like that.
Wow, and that's just continues.
That's actually
you have to multiply
impressive.
that by 3, right?
What's that?
You have to multiply that by 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the 3 lives.
I was expecting this, the phrase, I just recorded a no-death run for this game come out of Steven's mouth, but it didn't, right?
Yeah, 4 characters? I didn't know that. I made it through the game with 1.
Yeah, why did you need the other 2?
I'm not that good.
But Metal Slug, there's some great weapons you pick up in the game. Metal Slug actually refers to the tanks that you get in the game. I didn't know that until I was doing some research on it.
Oh, cool.
The tanks don't play like a super major role in the game, but you do run into them every once in a while. One of the cool things about this Metal Slug game, and another reason I picked it, is because I found out this was one of the few games that actually has branching paths, and it was one of the first, if not the first Metal Slug game to have branching paths. Did you guys encounter any of that or see any of that in the game? Did you notice it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think first level.
There's 3 branching paths in the first level.
Yeah, there's one where you can hop in the sub, or take sort of like the overland approach,
or jump on the boat.
Right.
Jump on the boat.
Yeah.
That's the other one, and then you kind of like go from vine to vine or something.
Yeah.
What's the third one? I don't know.
No, that is the third one. That was 3.
Oh, so,
yeah, the sub. You can do the upland approach to go up to the top, and then you can jump on the boat as well. So there's at least 3 in that level, and some of the other levels have. The second level has like an ice cave or something like that. It was pretty crazy. It's a wild game.
So now, like when I was playing this game, because like I know sometimes like food drops. I haven't been able to figure out what that is as yet.
Points.
But points, okay.
It's mostly just points. But yeah, it's mostly just points, but if you gather a lot of the food, it'll make you fat.
Yeah, I was going to say, like at one point my character got fat, and
it makes your bullets bigger from your gun, which I guess is an advantage. But,
okay. Yeah, I didn't know what it was all about. I just thought my sprite changed.
Yeah. You know what I just realized with you guys saying that, and you're talking about eating the food makes you fat, and there's so many other cute things in it, like the second level, you can actually turn into a zombie and play as a zombie. Yeah. So we're saying all these things, and you have this amazing, beautiful sprite work and animation. Is this not like the archetypical indie game that we're getting now? Like this game was almost like sent back through time. To think that this game, with all of its little cute little what's the word, like the quirkiness, the little,
it's almost like a stream of conscious game. I mean, just anything can appear out of anywhere, you know. It's nuts.
Right, like you're playing a run and gun game it's kind of an evolution of Contra in a way that Rolling Thunder wasn't. Like you get the power ups, you get different weapons, and yet it's very arcadey. It was designed to be a quarter muncher.
Oh, absolutely.
But you turn into a freaking zombie and walk around as a zombie.
You're just dragging your leg around. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I was going to say that if there's any sort of like connection between the 3 games, like Rolling Thunder would be like a stripped down Contra.
Sure.
And Metal Slug would be like Contra turned all the way to 11.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like Contra on steroids with all these little hipster tweaks to it, but it's not a hipster game because it was made however many years ago before that kind of thing was popular. That's really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's way ahead of its time.
Like,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Charm coming out of its ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody needs to make that T-shirt, Floyd. This Contra goes to 11.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it.
It's a wild ride, you know. I mean, and it's I don't know. I mean, thinking back, I mean, the thing was, it was really hard to come up, and I don't know if this means anything, but it was really tough to come up with a running gun for the modern side. You guys remember that? I mean, just trying to come up with something.
Yeah. I
Our
had
other
a list.
option was Contra Shattered Soldier, but we wanted to do the original. So.
I had a list, and it was like not even 10 games of like modern era running guns.
So this brings up a
we
good
were thinking
question.
what, Alien Hominid?
Yeah,
and,
which is fantastic, by the way. Yeah,
Too hard.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's
talking about Metal Slug 3 year, and you say that game's too hard.
But
I don't know. Maybe some of the third-person shooters out today are kind of run and gun, but not really. I don't know.
Yeah, but the running gun is like the 2D kind of deal. You know,
I know. Yeah,
it has to have the 2D feel to it.
It's gonna have that like arcade feel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this is
we could have done Earth Defense Force. Does that count as a running gun? Yeah,
Maybe.
that fits the criteria.
Does it really? I thought that's more like a
should've done
3D
that.
game. I have a lot of those
It is, but
games.
it's a run and gun in every sense that we're talking about. Like endless enemies, power-ups, like just stupid action turned up to 11. Like, oh, man.
I have a lot of those games, actually. I for some reason, I
you
picked
should
those
play
up.
them, man.
It's that whole like space bug. Like I love like space bugs and like Starship Trooper games. Things with that type of feel. So I just picked them up and just giant robots and sci-fi and stuff like that. So giant insects, and that's what those are all about, right?
So let us know on rfgeneration.com if you would like to play Earth Defense Force. As
It wasn't made by Nintendo.
Oh, that's okay. You said it, not me.
I can take the heat.
All right.
But God, that made me lose my entire train of thought. I had something really good going. I remember now.
Sorry, man.
No.
What do you got?
It's great. So I guess my question is, is this a genre that's kind of lost? Is this something? Like with shmups, those haven't been really popular in the States, but we still see quite. There's a good crowd for those, and then people are still producing those. A lot of indie games, but I don't really see a lot of indie sort of run and gun games. Is this a genre that's just going to end up dying out? What do you guys think? Is it something that could be revived?
I think it just takes one good game. Like one good game by a modern developer, AAA or indie, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Are people kind of past that? Is it too broken down though?
But it's such a timeless genre, right?
I think you're right, Floyd, and I think it's kind of ripe for the picking. I think what we're seeing more now is a blend of run and gun elements with other genres.
Yeah.
We're seeing Metroid-style exploration games that are 2D shooters, and we're seeing more Diablo-esque, like isometric 3D action shooters that take run and gun elements. But I think you're right. If somebody could just do it right, I think it would be it would have the potential to be a great hit. Look at like what Shovel Knight did, blending elements of Mega Man and DuckTales. If somebody could take a game like that and take the best parts of like Contra and I don't know, like Castlevania or something, the best platforming action elements from those games, it would be a major hit.
And with Axiom Verge as well. They did the same thing.
I was going to say, Axiom Verge is an example.
Yeah.
Was it like Metroid, Bionic Commando?
Yeah.
Right? Because you have like the grappling hook. I think Bionic Commando can't jump. You just have that like grappling thing, right?
Yeah, you cannot jump.
Didn't you listen to the last Collector Cast?
It's one of the most frustrating things in my opinion.
What, that I haven't been on the Collector Cast yet? I know, I agree. I wish they would just invite me on.
But going back to can Run and Gun come back to life? I stand by that statement. It just takes one good game by, somebody. It doesn't matter if it's like some dude in his basement making a game by himself, or if it's like a side project by a major developer or even a AAA developer. I think it's due for a comeback.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're due for a good run and gun game that people will enjoy. And I think there's been these sort of modern attempts to do it. Metal Slug is obviously not one of those attempts because this is sort of just a continuation of a successful series. But I felt like Alien Hominid was a good attempt at making a sort of Contra game, putting some great hand-drawn art to it and giving it that touch. But yeah, I'd like to see one.
Cool.
Leave it to the indies. Give it some time.
Yeah. So this was a great year of gaming for us. I had a fantastic time in 2015 gaming. Real quick, I just want to go through the games that we played this year, and for anyone who's not joining us in these playthroughs, I mean, just take a gander, if you will, at this list.
I will.
I want to go through it real quick. January, we played Kid Icarus and 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. February, Zelda Link to the Past and 999. In March, we played Medieval and Batman Arkham Origins. In April, we played Paper Mario and Tomb Raider, the 2013 version. In May, we played Shining Force and Kirby's Epic Yarn. In June, we played Mega Man 2 and 3 and Mass Effect. In July, we played Golden Axe 1 through 3 and Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine. In August, we played Little Nemo, Spec Ops The Line. September, Metal Gear Solid, Indigo Prophecy. October, Castlevania Bloodlines and Resident Evil. November, Secret of Evermore and Gravity Rush. And of course, December, we're playing Contra, Rolling Thunder 2, and Metal Slug 3. Man.
What a lineup.
So, if somebody didn't play, they're missing out on a lot.
A lot of great games. I mean, so much fun. And I can say that most of these games that I played for the month, I beat most of the games that I played, with an exception. I think Golden Axe 3, I was not able to complete, and I'm pretty positive I'm not going to be able to complete Rolling Thunder 2 and Metal Slug 3. But pretty much that's it for what I played. Of course, I didn't play a lot of modern games this time. But with that list, we wanted to this is something we did last year, and we had such a blast talking about this, but we wanted to talk about...
Do you want to explain why we did... Because going forward, we're only doing one game a month.
Yeah, sure.
And this past year, we did 2 games a month.
Yeah.
A classic title and a more recent one.
Sure.
And I guess that's because on RFGeneration, I mean, there's a whole variety of people on there. Sure, there's a lot of Nintendo love, but there's a lot of modern gamers on there too, and I think I represent them. Shawn, you're part of that club,
right?
So I think we wanted to do something that would satisfy, both eras of gaming.
Sure, absolutely, and as we mentioned on our podcast, on our last podcast in November, we're going to drop it down to one playthrough a month, and we're really sad about that. I know Shawn and I, especially, I know Floyd, you and Steven, you kind of get to flip-flop between both sides. You get to play a little retro, a little modern. But for not to exclude you guys and your feelings on the matter, but for Steven and I, this is sort of a the retro side for me is kind of my baby, and I think Shawn, you kind of feel the same way about the modern side, right? It's kind of it's a tough time for us.
Oh yeah, definitely. And pardon me, I mentioned this on the Gravity Rush segment that I felt like it was really my kind of duty to carry the torch for modern gaming representation on RFGeneration.com. But we're not going to drop modern games entirely.
Absolutely
and I think our listeners and friends and community members and members of RF Generation will see a good mix of modern and retro titles because we're going to kind of spread it out, over the year. It'll be one game a month, but we're not going to exclude modern titles. So
absolutely not. We're going to have plenty of modern titles, and I'm excited about getting to play some modern titles, and it's going to be a lot of fun. As most people know, RF Generation is a collector site. We have the world's largest video game database out there. And so the majority of our members are people who are collectors and who like to catalog their games. The majority of the people aren't active on our forums, but the ones we do that are active on our forums are just a wonderful, wonderful community of people. And what we're hoping is that, like, by dropping it down to one playthrough a month, what we can do is we can be more inclusive and not have people have to say, oh, well, I'm only going to be able to play one game this month because I'm going to have to put a lot of time into it, so I'm going to choose the modern side, or I'm going to choose the retro side. What we want to do is we want to have an all-inclusive playthrough where everyone can play, everyone can talk about the games, and that is one of our major reasons for doing that. Our second reason is, we just miss talking to each other. Shawn and I, we like to tease each other a lot. We're very antagonistic toward each other and have a lot of fun with each other. We really do. Oh yeah, come on. I got a text the other day for Only Thunder Tuesday. This game sucks. So,
well, mind you, Shawn was a few ciders in at that point.
I don't know, but we like to have fun with each other, and we like to antagonize each other, and I do it to him all the time too. So it's a lot of fun, and it makes for a good time for all of us, and the four of us really enjoy talking to each other, and that's really one of the things we wanted to bring about. And one of the big reasons for doing this is because it's really nice when all four of us together, because we all really click really well, and it makes for a better podcast as well. And
right, it's like this was the only time each year that the four of us could come together in one place.
Absolutely.
So it's nice, going forward, that we can all be here. We can all sort of bounce off of each other, and that like camaraderie, that friendship, that like fun vibe is really going to carry through.
Yeah, and you can't have that if you're not consistent with it, right? You have to you have to be consistent. You have to do it over and over again to have that fun feeling. And I know that when I participated on the Warhammer segment with Shawn and Steven, that's not a game that I really cared for, to be honest. I'm glad I played it, but overall I didn't really care for the game at the end of it. But one of the best things was being able to talk to those guys about the game. We had a lot of fun talking about it, whether we enjoyed it or not, right?
I agree. Completely agree.
Yeah.
And I think, I relish the opportunities to be on the air with all three of you at once, and to think that we're going to be doing that pretty much on a regular basis going forward is very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait. I think it's it's good things going forward. Everything's going to improve. The quality of everything will be much better, and you'll get a lot better in-depth coverage of these games with 4 people as you would opposed to 2 or 3. So
cool.
That's all we'll say about that. But let me hit you guys with this fact before we start our top 5. Can you believe that we've played 86 games so far?
Well, you have.
Well, I haven't. But I mean, like, as a playthrough group.
No, that is awesome.
As a community.
That is really awesome.
I started counting it up. I was looking at, like, our schedule, because we keep that on a Google Doc, and I counted it up, and I was like, oh my God, we're so close to 100 games. We're going to hit 100 this year. This upcoming year.
I can't, like, yeah, no, you're right. Like, as a community, collectively, we've played nearly 100 games in the span of, what, just under a couple of years?
Yeah, just a couple of years. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember when that first playthrough was. It was the last story. It was the one.
It was the last story, and that was with Crabmaster, and he's kind of like, hey guys, I'm playing this game.
Yeah.
If you want to play with me, that's cool, and post your thoughts in the thread, and it'll be like we're playing together, and it's so cool that this has evolved into what it is now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something very special when we hit 100, but 86 games so far. We're almost there, and I do think we'll break that 100 mark within in 2016. So it should be a good time. But let's get right into it. We're going to talk about our top playthrough games, our top 5 playthrough games of 2015. Kind of randomly drew numbers for this, and we're going to start out with Steven's number 5 pick. We're going to kind of do it like a snake order. It's going to be Steven, it's going to be Floyd, it's going to be myself, and then Shawn. And then what'll happen when we do our 4th pick, Shawn will go, and then I'll go, and then Floyd, and then Steven, and we'll just kind of do it like in a snake order. Let's start off with Steven. Steven, tell us a little bit, first of all, before you do your number 5 pick, tell us a little bit about kind of how you came up with your list, because sometimes we all have different methods or things that we're thinking about when we come up with our list. Was there anything special that you did?
Yeah, so when I first started making my list, I just took all the playthroughs I participated in this year, which numbers at 17, and I just started ranking them. I didn't have any criteria in mind. I just was kind of going with my gut. But as my list started forming, I noticed that it was the games that really surpassed my expectations that were at the top.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I started formulating my list around, and so for me, it's just the games that were pleasant surprises and surpassed my expectations.
Okay.
I didn't really want to factor in things like participation and things like that. So,
okay.
With that being said, my number 5 pick is Castlevania Bloodlines.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Its game gets kind of a bad rap for some reason.
I don't understand that either.
I can only assume it's because it's on the Genesis and not on a Nintendo console. But yeah, I don't know. It's still a very good game. It the gameplay's solid. The art style is it's colorful and vibrant, nice to look at, and it's not only is it a great game, it's a great Castlevania game, and I'm not really sure what the backlash is for, but
I'm with
you,
man. I'm with you.
Isn't it one of the tougher Castlevanias?
I don't think I would say that, honestly.
No.
Okay.
I think it's fair. I've seen both sides of it, Floyd, which is really strange. I have some people say that it's too hard, and then there's some people that say it's too easy. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that. I think it's.
No, that's.
I think if you're an avid Castlevania fan and you enjoy Castlevania and you like the style of those games, I think you can beat it. If you're if you've played through like. If you've beaten the first game, which to me was exceedingly difficult when I was younger, but if you've beaten the first game, I think you can beat Bloodlines.
Yeah, I definitely think the first game is more difficult.
Yeah, there's definitely a kind of a boss gauntlet at the end of it that's rough, just boss after boss after boss, and that's really the toughest part of the game. But it's an exceedingly beautiful game. One of the first things I noticed. Just the artwork in the background of the game is just it's stunning.
It is one of the more gorgeous looking Castlevanias.
Yeah, and I think another knock on it is, you do have your standard guy with a whip, but then you also have I want to say Eric Legrand. Is that right?
I think that's his name.
Yeah, who has the uses sort of like the spear, and I think that's an odd choice for a lot of people. And so, and like Steven said, being on the Sega Genesis, I think people kind of knock it a little bit for that. But,
yeah, the game takes a few little departures from the standard formula of the series, but I enjoyed a lot of the changes, and it's still very much a Castlevania game at its core.
I agree.
And a good one at that. So
I agree.
Awesome.
All right, Floyd, number 5.
So as you guys know, I was one of the flip-flop guys, so I kind of did 6 months of modern titles and then 6 months of the more classic games. So, I kind of had 2 pools to pick from. However, only one of my picks comes from the classic side, and that's not to knock the older games. I love video gaming in general. I mean,
well, I hope
even
so,
when friends, even when friends come over, like a personal bias, I'll try to push the older stuff on them because a lot of my friends are PC gamers. So, I just want to show them that these older titles do hold up today and that they're still fun. But I'm sort of digressing here. I had 2 pools to pick from, so I had a big variety of games that I could choose from, and what I didn't really have a set criteria for my top 5.
Sure.
I kind of just picked the games that will last with me the longest, and games that I'm thankful for playing. Games that I really feel satisfied that I had the chance to play them. And okay, so to get into my number 5 choice, I'm not the biggest superhero guy. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I do really like Batman. Like I really enjoyed the cartoons. Mm-hmm. I've watched most of the movies. I've still got some that I have to catch up on. So, all that being said, my number 5 goes to Batman Arkham Origins. I think it's really cool to be able to play as Batman and be that Dark Knight who he's a character who can just inspire fear into people, and that's one of his greatest weapons.
Yeah.
And it was fun to move into sort of an open world mechanic, comparing that to Arkham Asylum, which was kind of Metroidvania-ish. It was just fun to sort of be Batman, fly around the city, take down baddies as you go, and find mission objectives and side quests and stuff like that.
Yeah, that this game didn't make my list, so if I could just throw in my 2 cents, that was a good playthrough. Having you as my co-host, Floyd, I think we did a good job on that one, and that was a good podcast. I remember that episode being pretty good, so I'm glad you picked it because it's not on my list, but I think that, like you, I agree with you that whole franchise is really good, and that game was really no slouch.
Yeah, it's a series that is deserving of being played.
Yeah, it's the only one I don't have yet. I mean, when I got my PS3 last Christmas, and I have Asylum and I have City on PS3, and I have not gotten Origins yet, and I considered playing it with you guys, but I had played Kid Icarus. I played Blood on the Sand. That was actually the first PS3 game I played on my system, which is
way
awesome.
To break it in, man.
I know, right? And then I played Link to the Past, and then 999 in February. So by the time March got around, I was a little burnt out, and I was like, I just don't, I didn't do it. But those games.
Yeah, you were kind of putting in a lot of overtime at that point.
Yeah. But those games are some of the games that I've heard nothing but good things about, and I've added those to my collection since then. So yeah.
It's a great series. I actually didn't play that with the playthrough. I played it maybe a couple years ago, but yeah, it's definitely a great series. You should check it out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's see. Who's next? Oh, that would be me.
It's you.
All right, I'm going to make me a drink real quick.
Oh, yeah.
We got scotch on the rocks, right?
Yes. All right. So for my number 5 pick, I was trying to come up with a way to do my list this year, because last year I decided I'm going to do a list I'm not going to include any games that I've played before. Well, this year there were a lot of games that I had played before, but at the same time, this year there are games that I enjoyed playing a lot more this time than I did when I had originally played them. And oftentimes as you're playing games, you're wondering, is this going to hold up later? And when later gets here, you go back and you play games, and you're like, I don't know. Is this game going to hold up? I see that a lot. Being a collector of old games and games that I really revered in my childhood, I kind of find that it's not as good as I remember it. But one game that we played this year that I was so excited, and you guys know, I've talked about this game for years, and I've been so excited about sharing this with everyone in the community. And that game was Medieval on the PS1. It was a game I was so excited to share with people, and I wanted to play like in November, like for so many years. I think I skipped two Novembers being able to play this game, and finally broke it out this March. It's not a game that was really suited for March, and I'll admit that as being the one that picked it. But I wanted to play it so bad and share it with people that I just didn't really think, because Medieval has a very October, November kind of fall vibe. Wouldn't you agree, Steven?
Yeah, your main character that you control is a skeleton.
Right.
So
and it has
a lot of dark environments.
Scarecrows, pumpkin patches, and things like that. So it's more suited for that time of year. So it was the wrong time of year to sort of pick this game.
It's very Tim Burton-y, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It reminds you a lot of the Tim Burton films, especially something like Nightmare Before Christmas, if you will. But it's a fun game. It's very comical. It was the one game that I really wanted to share with people, because I thought, okay, well, people may not know about this game. They might have vaguely heard of it, thought about picking it up at some point. And it didn't get a lot of draw. But I was very, very happy that I at least forced Steven to play this with me. And I feel like he enjoyed it. And even to change one person's mind about how a game might possibly be, and hopefully they would enjoy it, was good for me and good enough. And that's why I picked this at number 5.
Yeah, this was a game that
I think it's a bit of a hidden gem.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. This is a game, it wasn't on my radar before the playthrough, and then I can safely say it's that little overlooked hidden gem for the PlayStation.
It has some control issues for sure.
Yeah, it's a product of its time for being like kind of an early 3D game. So,
but I think compared to other 3D games at the time, it far exceeds stuff that other people were trying to do. It's got a good premise. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of hidden areas and things like that, and collecting like souls for the chalice is just a neat, really neat mechanic, I thought, and good weapons, and just a fun game, and very comical too. So.
Do you have a personal history with this game? Because it sounds like you're really passionate about it.
It's strange. It's just one of those games. Every once in a while, I will find a game that's at a really cheap price that just looks like a neat game. I didn't read about this game in any magazine or anything like that. I think I picked it up at like Funko Land, and I just saw it, like in, and I was like, okay, well, this is cheap. It was a used copy. I was like, well, it seems kind of neat. Seems like a kind of a Tim Burton-esque kind of game. I'll pick it up and try it out, and it just kind of stuck with me. I really liked it. I like the style. I like like I said, the humor in the game is really great. So it kind of stuck with me, and it was just something I wanted to share with the community, and something that really held up. I thought.
So I guess you picked it up a while ago. It's been something that's or it's something that's been in your collection.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, probably late 90s. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because we don't have a Funko Land up here in Canada.
Yeah. Those are extinct now, as far as I know.
Yeah, we have. We used to have Electronic Boutique, which I don't know if that was stateside as well.
Sure, EB Games, yeah.
Yeah.
EB Games, right?
Absolutely.
Well, our Electronic Boutique got bought out by GameStop, as far as I know. I may be wrong about some details, but all the Electronic Boutiques became EB Games. And now, like, if you were to go to EB Games and you buy something, they make you do that not mandatory survey, but they make you do that survey. Tell GameStop, right? I'm sure everybody knows about that. At least the modern gamers must know about that. So
they don't even call them EB Games down here at all. Everything is GameStop.
Yeah,
everything's GameStop. Yeah. Oh, I guess up here they held on to the name.
Maybe
that's interesting.
Yeah. sometimes, a company will buy out another company, but they'll hold on to the name just for the name recognition. But like GameStop might still own EB Games. They might be the forefront of it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, quite possible.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right, Shawn. Number 5, man. It's up to you. How did you come up with your list?
All right. So last year I came up with my list based on the playthroughs themselves mostly. Mm-hmm. And last year I wanted to highlight playthroughs that were good, where I did a good job hosting and where community members participated a lot. And I don't want to knock anybody, and I'm not ungrateful for the participation we've had, but the modern side, let's just say I couldn't use that criteria for my list this year.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do, I didn't have much of a criteria, to be honest. And if I could just take a chance to get on my soapbox for a second, and I've talked about this a couple times about just the problems with modern games in general. Mm-hmm. And I think that we played a lot of games that fall under the category of homogenized modern games. And I've referenced a YouTube video by somebody who Floyd and I are a big fan of, a guy named George Weidman, who has a YouTube channel called Super Bunny Hop. Mm-hmm. And he has a video called How Design Trends Ruin Great Games. And he basically talks about modern game design in general and how a lot of modern games now are, it's basically The Last of Us or Resident Evil 4 reiteration. Mm-hmm. So
in a nutshell, yeah, it kind of follows that like action formula, and they don't want you to fail too.
Right. Yeah. So I lament the fact that we played quite a few of these types of games in the modern side. So
sorry to interrupt you, but before you go with your number 5, like I guess you were kind of regretful that probably a lot of these modern games suffer from that, but there's no other options, just a sign of the times for modern gaming.
No, you're totally right, and we chose the games we chose. We played the games we played, and I've talked about this before. I've referenced this particular video on the podcast.
I'm sure we talked about that on every podcast we were on together.
Exactly. So, having said that, I tried to make my list a little bit more interesting by just picking games that don't fall into that trap, because. Okay. Quite frankly, for example, like Tomb Raider 2013 is one of my favorite games of all time. It did not make my list because it's a run-of-the-mill modern third-person shooter. Mm-hmm. So I didn't put it on my list because it's not particularly interesting. It just does the genre very well.
I played that a little bit, but actually put it down. Yeah, kind of felt that way too. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse with that. So maybe that's one of the things that we're maybe putting modern and retro aside and just picking one good game a month, where you won't have to listen to me bitch about the problems with modern games every month while simultaneously saying I want to play modern games every month. So anyway, my number 5 pick is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Okay. And I kind of wanted to echo what I did last year by picking the Wind Waker as my number 5 pick, because once again, I can almost echo everything I said about the Wind Waker, is that I don't usually play Zelda games. I only played it because of the playthrough, and I enjoyed it despite the fact that if I listen back to the podcast, and I'm going to just kind of repeat a couple of things that I said during that segment, but I played it with a walkthrough. I played it at work. I played it on the Game Boy Advance, and I was just trying to almost speed run it and just get through it as quickly as I could. But I still enjoyed it a lot, and I enjoyed sharing my experience with you guys as people like you on the podcast. Rich and Steven were on the segment with me, and y'all had played it like when you were younger. So we talked about playing it nostalgically versus playing it not nostalgically. And I think the game itself and the podcast reflected a really good playthrough, and that's why it's my number 5 pick.
Oh, cool. I just want to point out one thing that you said. Use the word y'all, which means you're in Texas now, which is awesome.
Oh, that's another thing.
You fully integrated, man.
That's another. Thank you for bringing that up. That's another thing I wanted to bring up is that during 2015, I relocated from New Jersey to Texas, and it's great. I'm very happy about it. But because of that, I didn't play as many of these games as I wish I could have because I was too busy trying to find a place to live and selling my house and doing all these crazy things and living alone without my wife for a couple of months, which was just crazy. Like, so
yeah, a lot of outside stressors, and glad to see that you're really happy now and in a good place. So.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
really. That was a big factor in the games that I actually played. So,
yeah, I love Zelda. Surprisingly, I know people are gonna say like, this is such a fantastic game, and probably people would argue that this is the best game that was made for the Super Nintendo. Did not make my list, and I played it, but it's a great game. It's a fantastic game. It's a game I have so many wonderful memories of, and I'll stand by people to say it's one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But just the way I did my list this year, it didn't make it. And it was a tough game to leave off.
Again, I think it'll give me good memories of a factor in it is playing it on the Game Boy Advance, which I don't play very often, and just having the reminiscence of playing that game at my old job in New Jersey. Honestly, might have something to do with why I have an attachment to that game now.
Mm-hmm. That's cool, man.
That's really cool, man.
This game did not make my list, despite being one of my favorite games of all time. It's probably within my top 5. But yeah, based on my criteria, this game firmly met my expectations because of how many times I've played it. So,
exactly.
Didn't make my list for that reason, but still, like I said, one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm glad to see it's on your list.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad to see that you enjoyed it, because I was a little worried that you might not have enjoyed playing that game. So it means a lot for someone who's never played it to actually enjoy a game that's being picked. So that's really cool.
Cool.
Shawn, you again, man. Number 4. Let's hear it.
All right, cool. So we're gonna go back in reverse order now. So my number 4 kind of does fall into this criteria that I was complaining about, but it does have a special place as far as context and what it did with its themes and with its tone. And it was a game that I've played before. That's another thing that I didn't mention with my criteria, how I came up with my list, is that so many of these games I've played before, and I'm playing them again. Like Gravity Rush, Mass Effect, Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider, like all these games I've played them before, and it's another theme in the modern podcast where I say I don't usually do this, but I played the game again for the playthrough and blah blah blah. But my number 4 pick is Spec Ops: The Line, because I think Steven did a freaking amazing job with this playthrough, and this game is incredible. And the political themes, the anti-war message that it has, everything that is going on with this game, we went into super in-depth with it with the podcast, and I'm really proud of that segment. Yeah. So that's why that's my number 4.
Just listening.
It's one of my favorite segments we've done, and just the amount of time and research I put into kind of putting our outline together, and I just had a lot of fun doing it and researching it. So you'll see it on my list a little bit higher. So
just someone who looks at the Google Doc like to make notes. Dude, your notes for that were so intense, man. I was like,
2 or 3 pages.
I was like, these are the most amazing notes I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And listening to the podcast, I did not play the game. listening to the podcast alone made me go out and buy this game immediately. I was like, wow. I mean, this game sounds awesome. And I listened to the entire podcast, and I know I probably got some spoilers, but I'm old. I have a very short-term memory, so it doesn't matter. So I'm definitely going to play this game down the road, and that was a fantastic podcast. You guys did an amazing job with that.
We got a lot of good feedback like that. People who had no interest in the game, replying back saying that now they're interested and they picked up the game, and that was really cool for me.
Yeah, I mean, who would even think? I mean, a Spec Ops game. I mean, who would think that? It just seems like you're your basic like milquetoast title, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really does, and I don't mean to sound like to sound offensive about people that play like games like Battlefield or Spec Ops or anything, but from the conversation you guys had, this game is so much more than that. It's so deep and it's great.
I wanted to say that because Shawn's criteria were games that aren't run-of-the-mill, at least for modern games, and Richie just said it's like formulaic or whatever your words were. I think on the surface, and I didn't play Spec Ops. I really wanted to, and now I'm going to be trying to track down a copy, and like just editing that show. I'm one of the editors of the show. That was such a fun segment to work on, right? And like Steven and Shawn just hit it, out of the park.
Yeah, you guys are really passionate.
Hit the nail head on the head with that show. You guys did an awesome job, and you really made me want to play this game.
Absolutely.
On the surface, I think it's really formulaic, just based on what you guys talked about. But under the surface, like there's a lot of like subtext in this game. It sounds like it's a very subversive game. Like it's a game that's self-aware.
Subversive is the perfect word for it.
I think like I can probably gush about it for hours on end as somebody who didn't play it. I don't want to take away from anybody's time. Awesome game, awesome pick.
Well, it's not what
I'm going to be looking for it.
It's not what we love about games that where developers decide to take that chance and to make something that exceeds something that is so formulaic. Something that's out of the ordinary that you just don't expect.
Yeah, and it's awesome that it used the formula to defy the formula.
Right.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4. Well, this is actually 2 games. I'm putting 2 games together for number 4. No, not really. Once you understand, same playthrough, so it counts.
Where you're going with this.
Is it a tie or is it the same playthrough month?
No, and it may not be where you think I'm going with this. I think, Shawn, you might think I might be talking about Mega Man 2 and 3.
No, I thought you were going to go run and gun. I thought you were going to say Contra, Rolling Thunder.
I thought you were going to go running. Or I'm sorry, Mega Man.
Nope, not going with either. Actually, my pick for this is actually Golden Axe 1 and 2.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I got a message from Shawn that said this sucks too, but
no.
All right.
Again, that's just a joke.
Again, we like to antagonize each other. So it's all in good fun.
It's just the fact that every game on the Sega Genesis sucks. So.
Oh no!
I'm just a Sega kid.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a Sega kid, so I really love that system.
No, I do too, and I've one of the reasons for it is I've had sort of a I didn't get my first Sega Genesis until about 5 years ago. So really, I'm like 5 or 6 years into Sega Genesis, and even when I got it, I was like, it's not as good as Nintendo. It's not as good as my Super Nintendo. But recently, I've become really great friends with a new guy, Cameron, who was on our Golden Axe show, and he grew up with the Genesis, and he has put me on to some fantastic games, and he actually played through Golden Axe with us, and we co-opted that, and just the co-op experience of us playing through Golden Axe 1 and 2 and 3, it was just a fantastic experience for me, and one of the things that's really my Genesis collecting has just gone through the roof because of this. I've just been seeking out new games, and it's so awesome to be 38 years old have like a complete history of just Nintendo from that far back, and to find like this kind of new retro world of games to enjoy.
You just discovered the power of blast processing.
But Golden Axe Golden Axe 1 and 2 are games that I had played, before 5 and 6 years ago. I'd played them in the arcade and things like that. But for me, like, this playthrough was just a ton of fun, and I think a part of that was just the enjoyment of him coming over. There was a point when, like, every Thursday night he would come over, and he would come with a grocery bag, like a plastic grocery bag of games, like ringing my doorbell at my front door. This grocery bag of games, and we would just open it up, and he would just bring stuff over, and we would just pop it in, and just kind of going back to that sort of couch co-op phase that I enjoyed so much as a kid was just so awesome, and that's why this one made my list. I had such a great time with Golden Axe 1 and 2. Beat both games, did not beat Golden Axe 3, but just to be able to knock those off the list, was just awesome. So
cool.
I was just going to say, I think that's one of the strengths of the Genesis. It had so many good arcade ports.
Sure, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Golden Axe playthrough didn't actually make my list, but I've played these games since I was a kid, and I love these games. But I think my experience with this playthrough, before I'd always play these games in co-op. I don't think I've ever played them like single player,
Sure.
But for the playthrough, I couldn't scrounge up a co-op partner, so I played them by myself. The single player experience is not as good, so that kind of lowered it for me a little bit, but it's still great games.
I completely understand that, and I think they're games that are meant to be played co-op. I mean, it was a different time, and it was great to, I think as I mentioned before, it was great to feel like a kid again, and have that time again, and I think that's why it made my list. So, all right, cool. All right, Floyd, back to you. Number 4.
All right. My number 4 is a very formulaic game, and I probably played a lot, like very similar to pretty much every action, adventure, third-person shooter game of that year. It took, I guess you could say it took a lot of influences from a very successful game of that year, and probably it was definitely in my personal top 5. The game that I'm talking about is the 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider.
Oh.
Was it formulaic? Yes. Was it, like cookie cutter to, like every little minutia? Yes, but it was a fun game,
Yep.
But also to give Lara Croft like a backstory was kind of cool. Like I haven't played any of the PlayStation 1 Tomb Raider games, but to give this strong character, this is very iconic character within the realm of video gaming, a backstory is really cool in my opinion. And it had its flaws, one of them being it's super cookie cutter, and it's just sort of like follow the cookie trail from point A to point B. There's sort of that survival instinct where your checkpoint was glowing, so you always knew where you had to go. There wasn't that much exploration unless you wanted to go out of your way for it, but it was just personally a blast to play. And that's why it makes my top 5.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, and just hearing about the just the accolades that the new Tomb Raider is getting from lots of people, I feel like this was sort of a jumping point. This game was sort of a jumping point for that new game. Tomb Raider is one of those series that, on the PlayStation, it was I don't know.
It was very important for the PlayStation.
Yeah, it was, but the mechanics of it were just so they were so primitive and brutal. But at the time,
product of its time, right?
Absolutely, and just something that they were tough to master, really tough mechanics to master. But they made a ton of games.
One thing that I want to he sort of reminded me of, and I want to mention this. Kind of brings up the formulaic modern game design approach. In the new Tomb Raider games, if you want to jump to a ledge, it's highlighted to say that yes, you can jump and grab onto this ledge, but there's no risk. There's no sort of oh man, am I going to make this jump? Mm-hmm. Whereas in the older games, you had to position yourself for the run up. Go for it, and at the last second, make the jump, and then press the grab button.
Sure.
To grab onto the ledge.
Yeah.
Which you don't have that in the new games. It's just, line up the jump, run, jump, and Laura automatically grabs the edge. It's kind of, it takes some of the risk and adrenaline rush out of it.
Yeah, whether you're gonna make that jump or not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the Tomb Raider release, the 2013 Tomb Raider release, I think it was a great sort of springboard to get to where we are now as far as making this new game, which apparently is fantastic from what I've heard from people. It's one of those series you kind of always wonder, is this one of those things that's gonna survive? I mean, they made, God, how many games did they make for the PlayStation? At least 4 that I know of. 1 through 3.
Right? Yeah.
What is it? Is it Revelations? Is that another one?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's one of those series you're like, is this gonna survive? Is this gonna test time? Really strong female character. And it has, and I think it's sort of gotten a nice rebirth, and I feel like that this game was sort of like a nice springboard for that. And I didn't play a lot of it. I played a little bit of it, but from what I played, I did enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be formulaic to you guys, but from someone who's just getting in, dipping his toe into modern gaming, I had a lot of fun with it from what I played.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
cool.
All right.
I don't know, there were things I could have added, but whatever. Yeah. It's cool.
All right. So, Steven, number 4?
My number 4 is Gravity Rush.
Okay. Cool.
Woohoo!
Yeah, this is it's a game I had on the Vita. I mean, we just talked about this a month ago, so don't want to say too much about it. But I've had it on the Vita for 3 years, and Shawn suggested it for a playthrough, and I never really had high expectations for this game. It didn't really look that appealing to me, but I started playing it, and I really enjoyed this game, and it's it's a unique gem for the Vita. I don't really feel like there's an experience quite like this on any other system, and I just all around really enjoyed the experience.
It's another one of those games, man. I was in a pawn shop the other day and saw it for $7. I didn't know if that was a good price or not, so I didn't pull the trigger on it, but just from listening to your podcast, I mean, I wanted to pull the trigger, and hell, I don't even own a Vita.
Wait, yeah, I was going to say, do you even have a Vita? You got to get a Vita, dude.
I know. Well, when they're about $20, I'll pull the trigger on the Vita. So, that's me, man. It's me. I collect. But you guys did a fantastic job with that podcast as well, so I enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you.
So
back to Steven, right?
Yeah, back to Steven.
Number
3.
My number 3 we've already talked about a little bit, but it's Spec Ops: The Line.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like we talked about it on the surface. It is very much a kind of standard looking shooter. I kind of knew going into it that there was a little more to this game, but I still think I wasn't prepared for just how deep this game goes. And for the playthrough, I mean, I spent hours researching stuff, mostly at work, just killing time at work, but spent just hours researching the game and all the subtext behind it. I watched analysis videos. I played through the game twice during the month, just they got really into it, and just that podcast we did was it's like we said, it's one of my favorites we've done. The response we got from it was really good, and just overall, it's a game I think a lot of people should check out, and I'm glad to have played it for the playthrough this year, and it's really awesome.
Awesome.
Right on.
All right, Floyd, number 3.
My number 3 will probably appear higher on Shawn's list, but that's Metal Gear Solid.
All right.
Metal Gear.
I think I liked it for the same reasons that Steven liked Spec Ops.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where you play and you get sucked in and you kind of go down the rabbit hole, and you just get absorbed into the world of the game, and it's like, what I played in the first game wasn't enough. I need to go play the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because that's one of my favorite games. And
you had never played it before, right, Floyd?
That's right.
Yeah, it's an awesome game. It's one I have fantastic and fond memories of, and it crushed my soul to not be on that podcast with you guys. But I did play it that month, and so I didn't feel like I would have enough to contribute or remember enough about it to.
Right.
As I mentioned before, with like Medieval, you'll play a game and you wonder if it holds up or not. So I didn't want to, sort of taint the podcast by talking about what I remembered about the game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said on that show, it's a sign of the times or a product of its time and ahead of its time.
Absolutely.
At the same time.
Yeah, good way to put it, man.
Yeah, I clearly remember, being a senior in college and my roommate and I just being obsessed with that game and playing through it together, and that was one of my best video gaming memories ever.
And like I don't know if the PlayStation had many, if any, tough as nails games, but like Metal Gear Solid was one of those tough games, and like everything down to the story, the all the fourth wall breaking moments, and it's like a espionage theme, like perfect. It had everything for me.
Yeah. It's a very rewarding game. It feels great to complete that game.
Like the characters, everything. 10 out of 10. Just I'm not saying it's perfect, but like everything, all the ingredients in it, top notch.
Absolutely. All right. So number 3 for me, right? So back to me.
Yes. Yep.
This game's already been mentioned, but I think it was Steven's number 5. But I'm going Castlevania Bloodlines. I am a big fan of the Castlevania series. I take a lot of crap from a lot of people for loving Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, but it was one of the games that it was the game that really hooked me on the series, and ever since I've been a very big Castlevania fan. And Bloodlines, I felt, as Steven had mentioned before, Bloodlines did not disappoint. I know it gets a lot of crap from a lot of people, but I did feel like Castlevania Bloodlines was a Castlevania game, and hands down a wonderful experience and a great game to play through. So that is my number 3. All right. Yep. Shawn?
Cool. Yeah, I wish I'd have played Bloodlines. I don't own it. I don't play Genesis games, but I want to try it out one day.
Oh, man.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't even trying to make a joke there. I don't collect for the Sega Genesis. I don't really have too many games for it. So, okay. So my number 3, it's funny. I wish you guys could see my notes, because I had something that I was going to pick for my number 3. I was going to go with Space Marine, but then I realized, like Rich was saying, that game wasn't great. Like, I think I have better memories of the podcast, much like Rich did, than I did of actually playing the game. You know what I mean? So my number 3 pick is actually 50 Cent Blood on the Sand, because that game is fun as hell, as opposed to Space Marine. Yeah. Like 50 Cent is such a cool game, and I think everybody should know about it. If you have an Xbox 360 or a PS3 and you're in GameStop and you see a 50 Cent Blood on the Sand, I don't know how much it goes for. I know it's not a valuable or rare game. Pick it up and play it, especially with a co-op partner, because it's fun as hell. It's arcadey, it's silly, it's great, and you know we all loved it. So that's my number 3.
It's goofy, man, and for like that to be like my first game to be introduced to the PS3, I mean, oh man, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I think the difference, you mentioned Space Marine and with Blood on the Sand, I think the difference for me was that with Blood on the Sand, I didn't feel like I can't wait for this game to end. I felt like with Space Marine, I was like, is this ever going to end? I had that kind of feeling with that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one is such a, like a well-developed story and very highly detailed, and the other's like, man, I got to get my skull.
Well, you know what? I think you'll know which one I'm talking about. One of them probably tries too hard to be like a serious story-driven game.
That's Blood on the Sand, right?
Definitely. Whereas I think like Blood on the Sand, they knew it was going to be cheesy. They knew it was going to be just like fun and silly and like, you know, no meat but all gravy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, plus like you're listening to some rockin' tunes while you're like blasting people away.
Yeah.
And like, oh man, it's such a fun ride. You know, it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. That's the best way to put it. It's a fun ride.
And see, for me, this is like, I'm 38, so I mean, like 50 Cent. That wasn't like that wasn't like music that I was into. You know, when that was out. You know, my brother, he's almost 13 years younger than I am. And that's his deal, you know. That's what he listened to growing up, and he has a PS3. And I was like, man, you have to get Blood on the Sand. I'm like, you will enjoy it so much.
Did he pick it up?
I'm not sure if he did or not. But
you got to find out. You got to find out what he thought.
I'm like,
of it.
man, you have to get this. Like, you'll enjoy it. You'll love it,
man.
You'll love it. So yeah, that's an awesome pick. I really did enjoy that game.
Cool. All right, so I guess my number 2 comes up here, and Floyd called it. Metal Gear Solid is my number 2. This is just one of the games that got me into modern gaming. I gushed about this game on the podcast. I love this game. It was a toss-up between this and Mass Effect because they're kind of the same game to me, where Metal Gear Solid got me into modern gaming in the late 90s, and Mass Effect got me into modern gaming in the late 2000s, you could say. But I had to go with Metal Gear Solid because it still holds up to this day. It's still incredible. I know it by heart. I played through it just like I ran ragged on this game. I can run circles around this game. I just love it. Much in the way that Rich plays Contra, I played Metal Gear Solid. And it's just part of my DNA. I love this game, and I would refer people to the podcast. I could just talk about it all night. I don't want to go too in depth into it, but that's my number 2 pick.
It's a tight game, man. One of the things I remember most about that game was like being able to like strafe on the walls and then like use your fist to like tap on the walls to make noise to make people move.
Yeah.
Oh, I had so much fun with that. I mean, there were times when I would just like do that just to like confuse like enemies and just like play around with that and just like clown, you know? I mean,
yep.
You know.
Well, you know what? Just thinking about like how many mechanics from that game have made it into modern games.
Yeah.
You know, like distracting enemies with sound and stuff like that.
Yeah. Way ahead of its time,
yeah.
like we said before.
Fantastic. All right.
Cool.
So we're back to me again, right? So number 2. My pick for number 2 was actually a game I've been wanting to play for a while. A game that doesn't get a lot of notoriety as being a good game. But I think it's sort of an overlooked gem, and something I enjoyed very much playing recently, actually, and that is Secret of Evermore. That made number 2 on my list.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, didn't quite make my list. I think it has a lot to do with, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but comparing it to Secret of Mana, no. It's always going to be like the lesser of the two in my book, but it's still a good game in its own right. It has its flaws, but yeah, I wasn't surprised that it made your list.
Yeah. And I think I would probably agree with you, Steven. Had I played Secret of Mana first, I think I may have a similar opinion of it. And it's funny, I just ordered, I picked up a copy of Secret of Mana 2 for the Super Famicom for $4.
Nice.
So I would. I'm not going to tell you where I found it. I'll tell you that after the podcast. I'll reveal my secrets to you guys. I'm not going to put that out there for everyone else to hear. But so you're definitely going to have to hook me up with the translations for the Retron 5 so that I can play this game. And there's actually a Secret of Mana 3 that was only released in Japan. Yes.
Well, wasn't Final Fantasy Adventure or like the Final Fantasy on Game Boy? Wasn't that a Secret of Mana?
Is that
game?
like it's not like Dawn of Mana, is it? Or,
Seiken Densetsu 1, I believe, is Final Fantasy Adventure on the Game Boy.
That's it.
Yeah. Final Fantasy
Seiken
Adventure,
Densetsu
right.
2 is our Secret of Mana, and Seiken Densetsu 3 is Secret of Mana 2.
Okay.
So
hopefully everyone's confused now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this series is a lot deeper than us North Americans ever got to experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. We got Evermore, which Japan is completely jealous of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just to kind of get back to that game and say a little bit about it. I just had a blast with it. I love the humor in the game. I love games that have a sense of humor, as I mentioned with Medieval, and the whole like 50s sort of atomic age sci-fi theme was a lot of fun. It felt like a very Americanized game. And I love the music, and I thought it was just a fantastic playthrough, and just enjoyed myself with it, and that's why it ranked so high on my list, because it was just something that I personally enjoyed. So that's it. All right, Floyd, number 2.
My number 2, I think Shawn had it as a toss-up for his. That's Mass Effect.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you picked it, because then it's represented. So, yeah, go for it, man.
Mass Effect is just such an awesome game.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's... Oh, I don't know where to begin. It's okay, first of all, it's BioWare, and BioWare really knows how to make their role-playing games. I don't know what to say. This is one of those games that, like, just go play it for yourself. It's so amazing. Like, just the relationships between the characters and all the various species, the political drama that ensues because of the plot of the game, the worlds you get to explore, like, everything was just amazing.
Yep. Great game. Good pick.
Mm-hmm. I think it's incredible. It's it's one of the must plays of the I was going to say current generation of gaming, but like the previous generation of gaming. Anyone who hasn't played it has to go play it. Anyone who's already played it should go play it again because it's just that awesome.
Word.
Yeah, Mass Effect, man, it's awesome.
I would have loved to join in on this game too. Yeah.
It's like a mix of old school and new school RPG. Like, it's got everything there.
Yeah, you would like it, Rich. You should play it.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the playthroughs that I wish I had joined you guys in. Regretful. Dark times.
All right. That's life.
Hashtag
well, you got a PS3 now, so you can pick up the anthology set or the trilogy set.
I got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Once you play the first one, you'll want to run through the whole trilogy.
You have no excuse.
So what's your number? What's your number 2, Rich?
No, it's Steven. I did too.
I'm sorry.
Secret of Evermore. Yeah, Steven.
Trying to push you guys.
Look at you, man.
Sorry.
He's had a few too many.
I've had it. Not enough. No.
I'm waiting to hear that second one crack at any moment.
Yeah.
It's gone, dude. I'm done. I'm cut off.
So is this number 3 or 4 or 5?
I lost count. Anyway.
All right, Steven, number 2.
My number 2 was one we mentioned already, but it is Medieval.
All right. Wow, man. I'm surprised that made it so high on your list.
That's really cool that it made it.
Oh, man. That makes me feel so awesome. You don't know.
You made his heart all warm and fuzzy.
I did.
I guess the story with this one was this game was announced as a playthrough for the March playthrough before I was with you guys as a host.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, wasn't too interested in it. I was like, well, I'm probably not going to participate in that playthrough. Then you guys asked me to join. That you kind of forced my hand. I had to go on eBay and buy a copy. But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised by it. And like we said before, it's very much a hidden gem for the PlayStation. And despite being a product of its time, like Rich said, it is better than a lot of those other games. Like the early 3D games that it handled that sort of gameplay a lot better than a lot of other games did, in my opinion. And it's just a really cool game. So I think people should definitely check that one out.
I think it's funny because I want to point this out that we sent texts back and forth to each other on GroupMe. And he said, and Steven said, I don't even know if it's going to make my list. So he was obviously just messing with me. But now him saying that at number 2, I think he made it move a little. You know what I mean?
No, it's been there for a while.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
I love it when you come into a game and you're like, I don't know, and then you walk out just loving it. You know?
Yeah.
That's such a great feeling.
Well, that's the thing with the playthroughs that I like so much. I feel like there's, probably a little more than a handful of games that I really, really enjoy that, maybe people haven't heard about, and I sometimes I'm more reluctant to suggest those things, and because let's face it, the games that we get the most participation out of are the games that are the more popular games, like Link to the Past.
Of course.
For sure. And for obvious reason, they're proven games, they're great games. But, when you can pull out a title that, and take a chance on the title, like Shawn did with Blood on the Sand, and, pull that out there, it's something that, people are kind of like, what? 50-cent game? Really? But then you play it and you actually put forth the effort to play the game and try it out, and you have a blast with it. Those are the best games, in my opinion. That's what this is all about. That's what makes this fun,
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. And I hope we can do more of that in the coming year. Absolutely. Because I don't want to be here in December of 2016 complaining that all the games that I chose were the same or something. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely... I agree. We used to do this a lot more, and I hope we can get back into it, like taking chances, picking games that maybe somebody will, what is this game? Fragile Dreams, this weird Wii game.
Right.
But that game turned out to be amazing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm kicking myself in the butt, man, for not finishing that game. That game was so good.
Yeah.
Oh. That was...
Jeez.
But yeah, stuff like that.
I
hope we can get more into that in the future. So really good point, man.
Absolutely.
Maybe we need to do more Xseed stuff, man.
Yeah, it's a good company, man. They make some good stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan too.
Absolutely. All right, so we're snaking back around. So we're to everyone's number one pick already. That's amazing.
We're at the number one.
All right,
oh boy,
Steven's starting it off. And you know what? This is like last year. I think last year, like, I know what your number one pick is.
Yeah, let's try to guess.
I
think we were doing that, weren't we? I think we were doing it. I know what Steven picked.
All right,
absolutely, man. I know what you picked. Any of you other guys know what he picked? I know.
I'm gonna say Mega Man 2.
Really? Okay, Floyd, what do you think he picked, man?
I don't know. I think this is the year of surprises. Like, I did not predict any games that you guys have mentioned to be in your top fives. And you know, I think when it's my turn, it's going to be the same. Well, maybe not. Maybe some of you know me pretty well, but no, I this is definitely the year of surprises.
All right.
That's all I'm going to say.
All right, man. I think he's going with Shining Force. That's my call, man. That's my call. Brother to brother. What's number one, man? Hit me.
50 Cent Blood on the Sand.
No way.
Did you really?
Dude, if I could... Oh, you suck. You got me all excited for a second there.
Man, you almost made me knock over my tower of TurboGrafx games, spinning my chair. All right.
You were right, Shawn. It was Mega Man 2 and 3.
Wow, all right.
There you go.
I didn't think anybody would guess it. But, yeah, I never had the Mega Man games growing up on the NES, and I played them a little bit over the years on emulators, and they just didn't really click with me.
Nothing clicks if you play it on an emulator.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I played Chrono Trigger on an emulator, and I hated it.
Dude, we tried to play Mega Man 2 on a Retron 5 up in Bills.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the lag is real, brother. It is awful.
I think that made it up as a banner message on our.
Yeah, the lag is real.
Wow.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
that's an awesome pick, though. Great game.
I just, I really got into these games, playing them. I had a lot of fun with them, and there's just it really got me into the series. I just wasn't a fan before, and there's just so many Mega Man games out there. So there's just they really kind of opened some doors for me. So even during that month, I played like 4 Mega Man games. I didn't just play those 2. So yeah, really got into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's so many games and they're so solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I mean, Mega Man 2 at least would have been a very easy pick for me for this list, and I have such a great history with that game, and probably it may be my favorite game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Quite honestly, I have such a great history with that game. I love it so much. But I didn't pick it for my list just because of, it's something I had played before, and I typically try to shy away from things I have a good history with. So
sweet. Floyd, let's guess what Floyd's number one is.
Yeah. Can you guys guess it?
My guess is 999.
Ah, you got it. Okay. Am I really that predictable?
No, this was a big one for you, man. I know it. I could tell. So yeah.
Because I think last year you guys guessed my number one too. Anyway, talk about going down the rabbit hole of games. Like I mentioned it for Metal Gear Solid, but 999 really sucks you in because you finish the game, or at least you think you finish the game, but then there's more. Like you didn't get the full story, so you have to replay it. Like, what is it, like 6 or 8 times? And this was a contentious pick. Like Rich kind of advised me against it, saying that like if you pick this game, you're kind of asking people to play through it 4 times in a month. Because if you finish the game and get an ending, in quotation marks, an ending, that's not the ending of the game. If you were to compare it to sort of something like, you know, Heavy Rain or Indigo Prophecy, where like the ending you get is quote your ending. But this game does have a real ending and like 8 bad endings, so to speak. And you get so invested in the characters and you know, it's sort of like a whodunit kind of murder mystery. And you know, it's a visual novel, so it's all text based. There's no action, and but like the puzzle solving aspect was fun the first time around you encountered each puzzle. Every time after that was just sort of like repetition and memorization, so it wasn't as fun. But it was like this game was like peeling back layers, and it's like every layer you peeled back, there was more and more. So I just got. Just to say going down the rabbit hole is the only way I can describe it. And this game has such a deep rabbit hole. And, you know, like I've got the sequel. I'm so ready to play it. And there's a Zero Escape 3. I can't remember what its subtitle is because every game has some sort of weird subtitle. But I'm so ready for that when it comes out. It's such an underground cult hit.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Like again, another like sequel or a game that I thought about like just picking up, even though I don't own a Vita. You know, I mean
Vita or 3DS.
Yeah, true. I don't own one of those either. but yeah, I mean, solid game. It got me. Playing Hotel Dusk.
Hotel Dusk is something I want to play.
Trace Memory. It got me playing those types of games at the time, and it really kind of set it off for me. Really fun game.
See,
convoluted
like
story.
for a game like that,
Yeah.
to really get you sucked into the DS library, like that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for everybody, because like there's not a lot to this game. Like you really have to. It's a thinking person's game,
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And not only because it's so puzzle based, but like, it's so in depth, and you kind of have to pay attention to what people say, and like, you know, people will leave clues and they'll betray you, and you know. Talk about a well-written game, you know?
Yeah, it's very deep, and it's one of those games you can't. Well, you obviously can't play through it one time and finish. You have to play through it multiple times. It forces you to play through it at least 2 times, and you have to get very lucky to be able to play through it that second time to actually get a very concrete or decent ending for the game. And
I like I mentioned, you know, breaking the fourth wall for Metal Gear, but like I must have written like 2 or 3 or 4 pages of personal notes for this game, like how to solve the clues, you know, like taking just a note of what people said so that like I would remember that they're like about to betray me later. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Really fun game. And if you're looking for games to sort of, for me, it was just sort of games to like lie in bed and play on my DS, you know, in the evening or at night without having to hook a console up to the TV. That was those are definitely great games to be able to take sort of piece by piece. You know, you can solve. You can kind of solve a room in a night or a few rooms in a night and just kind of move on and slowly progress through the game.
Had the nice feature of like, you know, save wherever you are.
Yeah, but have a notepad with you as you're doing it and writing down your choices so that you're not repeating anything you've already done. So
yeah, you do have to take notes.
Absolutely. It's an important thing to do. So, all right.
Sweet.
So we're at my number 1, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Any guesses?
I would say Shining Force.
All right, since
absolutely correct.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yes, absolutely. I up to the point of playing Shining Force, I had never played any tactical RPGs, and I know that's probably surprising to a lot of people considering how much I love retro games. But yeah, I mean, for Shining Force to be my introduction to tactical RPGs, what a fantastic way to enter. And I mean, this game just, I don't know, it just floored me. It made me like just reconsider about what I really liked about video games, you know.
Wow, that's heavy, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was a lot of fun. I liked everything about it. I felt that the story was great. All the characters were great. The collecting of additional characters. I did, I admit I used a playthrough to play this game to be able to collect all the characters. But that's a part of my personality. That's what I like to do. As I'm playing a game, I like to be somewhat of a completionist, unless it's utterly ridiculous. And as we know, like, being a completionist for some games can be like ridiculous. But for this, I thought it was, it was warranted, and I just had a fantastic time with this playthrough. I am shocked that this did not make your list, Steven. Anywhere in the top 5. Had you played this before? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of close, but I almost wanted to put it on my list because I have played it before, and I knew I really enjoyed it, but I still enjoyed it more than I thought I would replaying it.
Okay.
But yeah, I just didn't quite make the cut. I kind of wanted to give some new games,
but
games I haven't played before, the spotlight.
But you did just like I did. You bought Shining Force 2 complete, like immediately after this playthrough, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I played Shining Force 2 before as well, but
yeah,
I didn't have a copy of it when we did Shining Force. So yeah, I went and bought a copy of it.
Yeah,
and yeah, I really hope that's something we might do sometime in the future.
I would love to, man. I would absolutely love to. Shining Force 2, Phantasy Star 2 as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I know those games have been mentioned. Yeah, I would love it. Yeah.
Just give it a few months so that I can catch up. We're good.
All right, Shawn, number 1, man. Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Cool, this is it. Who wants to guess?
Resident Evil.
And if it's not Metal Gear Solid, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
but that was my number 2.
Brother.
I know, that's my point.
Oh, hold on. No, it's Mass Effect.
Oh, so
man.
you're saying since I picked Metal Gear Solid already, you don't know what it is. I got you.
Exactly.
It's Mass Effect, man. He gushed about that game.
No, I said it was either Mass Effect or Metal Gear, and I picked Metal Gear, so Mass Effect is out of the running.
Mm-hmm.
My number 1
this
pick.
is a year of surprises. Except for me, I'm predictable.
Floyd, guess my number 1. What's your guess? You don't know.
What did we play together?
Sounds like a personal quest.
We played Metal Gear, which you've already mentioned.
Have you already mentioned Gravity Rush?
You know what? I don't know.
Steven, you got it. It's Gravity Rush.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
I thought you already said that one, but I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of me.
Quote, I used to be a Vita hater.
Yeah, no, Gravity Rush, again, it's fresh in my memory. It's a fantastic game. It's a game that I did not think I would enjoy as much playing it again, but I kind of picked a Vita game by default. You guys may remember the text that we were having in GroupMe where I said, I want to play a Vita game. Who has a Vita? What kind of games do you want to play? And there was a list going around, and Gravity Rush kind of fell into the place as a placeholder. And Rich finally one day just said, okay, we're playing Gravity Rush, because like, stop screwing around and pick a game. No, it's Gravity Rush.
Did I do that, really?
Yeah, like, and you weren't as like blunt as I'm putting it, but that's how it happened. No. It was just like,
you're playing Gravity Rush. This is an awesome game, and you have no choice.
It was just okay. It's going to be Gravity Rush, but here it's just an amazing game. If you have a Vita, you have to play it. it was a perfect send-off for the modern segment, as I mentioned in last month's podcast. I adore this game. I love Kat, the main character. I love the cel-shaded style. I love the music. I love the PlayStation Vita. I cannot wait to buy a PS4 so I can play Gravity Rush again and play Gravity Rush 2 when it comes out. So that's my number one, Gravity Rush.
Awesome.
So.
Very, very cool.
Nice.
Great picks all around, guys. I mean,
right on.
Yeah, I think everyone has a reason for their list, and I really love hearing like what everyone has to say about why they picked everything, and kudos, and again, like congratulations on another fantastic year of playthroughs. I cannot wait for 2016. I think it's going to be so phenomenal. So. So we decided that we were going to do our top 5, but we also decided, hey, let's have a few little subcategories of games and sort of ideas. So we kicked the ideas back and forth, and we came up with 3 different categories. And the first one was your biggest disappointment. What game were you looking forward to play, but was your biggest disappointment? Okay, so let's see. Shawn, you ended it, so we're going to let you go back again.
That's cool. My disappointment of a game that I actually played and was disappointed by it was Space Marine. Okay. Because I had heard good things about it. I liked the idea of having a shooter that also had melee elements in it, and we talked about that on the podcast. That was kind of a cool. Yeah. That it was a shooter and it was a hack and slash, but I think the overall package, coupled with the final boss that was a QTE that is just completely inexcusable, unforgivable, never should happen in a video game ever.
Never, not on a final boss. No, that's worked so hard to get there.
Yep. So that's my disappointment.
Do you guys think that Warhammer 40K, Space Marine, and 50 Cent Blood on the Sand, kind of the same thing, using a licensed property? They're kind of going for the same thing, but one game did it better.
I think there's a huge difference in that. There's one that's just
I didn't play 40K, so
I mean there's one.
You wouldn't like it. Like don't think like, oh, I like 50 Cent, I should go play Warhammer. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think, and I made this comparison before in this podcast, is that, Warhammer was one of those games I'm like, is this ever going to end? And 50 Cent Blood on the Sand was like, I wasn't thinking that the whole time. It was just, it's fun. It's fun. It's lighthearted. Let's face it, I mean, the word bitch is used like 1,000 times. It's just, it's just silly, and
so then like I said earlier, where one game tried too hard, that would be Warhammer, right?
And maybe
to a certain extent.
To a certain extent,
like
but I don't think the 50 Cent game ever considered itself took itself seriously. I think it was just a game. It's like, let's have a game. It's got 50 Cent's music in it, and let's just have fun with it. And it's very lighthearted, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. And I think it does it better because you're just having more fun with the game, I don't know.
Cool. Who's
I'm next.
You're next. Yep.
All right. My biggest disappointment, game I was looking forward to that was the biggest disappointment. I would say probably my least favorite game that I played was probably Warhammer, but that's not my biggest disappointment. My biggest disappointment was probably this year was probably Indigo Prophecy. It was a game that I was looking very forward to playing. I thought the game had a great story, but I thought that the quick time events being like the biggest portion of the game, for me, and maybe this is because I'm an older gamer, I just felt like the quick time events there was just a little too much of it, and it kind of bored me. I did like the story. I like what the game tried to do, but I think I was so looking forward to playing this game, and it was my pick this year, my one pick for the modern playthrough, and it was a game I chose, and I think I was a little disappointed at how it kind of turned out and what the gameplay mechanics were for it.
Well, you know what I want to say, like having played like Quantic Dream has 4 games in their repertoire. Mm-hmm. Like Omicron, which was like general consensus is that it was terrible.
Yeah.
Then Indigo Prophecy, then Heavy Rain,
yeah.
and then Beyond Two Souls.
Yep.
And I think if you look at it from Indigo Prophecy to now, you can see an evolution in what they were trying to do.
Absolutely. And I don't think that's something that I wouldn't appreciate. It's something that...
But I think just maybe what they were trying to do, there was they didn't have the power to do it. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It just didn't. It really didn't jive with me. It didn't work with me. But even saying that, and I know we've mentioned this, and it's been brought up that people have talked about like maybe doing Heavy Rain at some point. I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. And I feel like that I would be really into playing that game at some point. I've heard so many accolades and so many great things about it that I would still give that a really good chance, and be excited about playing that game. And this game didn't deter from that. I don't want you to think that, but I guess for what it was trying to do at the time, I can give it.
Well, I think they maybe didn't know how to achieve what they were trying to set out and do, right?
No, and I appreciate what they tried to do, but it was a little lacking for me. And again, that is compared.
But maybe the technology wasn't there,
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Probably.
Yeah.
And again, it's I'm comparing this game to a list of fantastic games that we played throughout the year, right? I mean, it's not like compared to like every game ever made. It's this list, this very limited list of what we played in 2015. So that was probably the most disappointing of the games that I played. So take that for what it's worth. It's not a bad game. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game. Yeah.
I actually thought this was going to make your top 5, honestly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I from our podcast talk, I feel like you enjoyed it more than you did, apparently. But,
yeah.
I agree completely, just as a listener of that podcast segment. And I played the game a while ago, but I enjoyed it. And listening to your podcast, you kind of just fleshed out exactly how I felt about the game, which is in general that I liked it. So, I'm kind of surprised to hear it was disappointing to you, too.
Yeah, and it's not that I didn't like the game. I don't want anyone to think that I didn't enjoy the game. I enjoyed playing the game. I'm better for it, and I'm really glad I played the game. But I think
it just had things that didn't work for you.
Yeah, I think it was it was the one I was looking forward to so much in the plan. I had so much invested in that pick, and probably it has to do with that was the one pick I had for the modern side, right? Mm-hmm. And I had so much invested in that pick, and that's what I chose, and it didn't. I don't know, the endings and that sort of thing just didn't. I don't know. It didn't really jive with me, and it's just so many QTEs.
Well, you know what?
Good story.
If we ever do get the chance to. Yeah, I'm sure, and I really want to play that game. It did get an HD release. I think it was PC only.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. I want to try it out.
You should. It's a good game. I mean, I'm not knocking it as a quality game. I think it's a game people should own.
I think it'll be, like now that the 4 of us can sit down together, and if we ever do get to play something like Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls, and you can sort of chime in with like, this is how it was in Indigo Prophecy, and this is how it was in Heavy Rain, for example, and like, this is how it worked in this one, but it didn't work in that one.
Absolutely, and I'm glad I played it before I played Heavy Rain. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the way to go, because if you went the other way around, and you played Heavy Rain first,
right?
You probably wouldn't be able to play Indigo Prophecy.
Right. Okay. So next, that would be you, Floyd.
That would be me. Yeah. My biggest disappointment was a game that actually made it onto a top 5 list here. and it was only a disappointment for me because it was a game that I had built up so much in my mind, and I had such high expectations of getting into. When I set out to get, like, you know, really awesome, you know, 16-bit RPGs, this was something that I wanted to get for a long time. And when I finally played it, it was just, you know, such a you know, like a hard slog that it's not that I didn't like it, but I felt like I had to discipline myself to play it. I mean, Secret of Evermore, it is a very good game. It had ingredients that didn't really work for me. Like the magic system that was based off of combining, you know, a couple items together to cast a spell. You know, personally, I prefer using mana points. It's, like I said, not that it's a bad game, just not my game, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I can completely understand, like, why people wouldn't like this game, and I think that
like you said, the humor is awesome. The visuals, the sound, like the music, everything is really good. It just, you know, as Bill would say, not my jam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The menu system is it's a little tough to navigate, and
like I got used to that too, but just not my thing.
Yeah, and one of the things like that I remember from the podcast was one of the things that you like sort of pointed out was like you know, you're kind of one of those people that like sort of collect stuff, and I don't think you utilize the magic to the extent that it probably could have been used. Mm-hmm. I think you played it more like, you know, Steven and I played it more as I was more like heavily magic based. Steven was more melee. I think that's the way you're
supposed to play it. Like,
yeah, it was more melee based. I think this is
one of those. It's one of those weird games where you can play it the quote wrong way.
I don't say you're playing it the wrong way. I think you can play it either way you want to, and I think there's probably a more difficult way to play it.
But you're kind of putting a handicap on yourself by not doing magic.
Yeah, you are. And I think Steven played it that way and still beat the game, which is, you know, testament to how he plays and, you know, what a good gamer he is.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you know, there are points in the game that I kind of breezed through that I know he might have had more of a tough time with, you know, as a reason for that. And I think the game is not, how do you say it? It's not as balanced as it could be. You know, you can either go one path or the other. But it's not a wholeheartedly balanced game, but it was still, you know, for me, it was one that I really enjoyed, but I can completely understand, you know, why someone would be disappointed.
It's probably a very divisive game.
Yeah.
I mean, And I guess it never came out of Secret of Mana's Shadow.
Yeah. Okay.
And if we ever get to talk about that, we'll probably touch on you know, on that subject.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I can completely hate Secret of Evermore after I've played Secret of Mana. So you know, again, it's just it probably has a lot to do with this being the first of the two that I played.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my opinion for that. So. Completely understand.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right, Steven.
I think this is going to be kind of a surprise because this isn't a bad game by any means. It just didn't. It wasn't really what I expected it to be. But this is Paper Mario.
Okay.
My biggest disappointment, and like I said, not a bad game. It is a good game, but I had played Super Mario RPG fairly recently before playing Paper Mario.
Did you play the playthrough with us?
No, I actually wasn't even a member of RFGeneration when you guys did that.
Oh, wow, okay.
I played it, I think it was like last November, or November of last year. And then we played Paper Mario in April of this year, I think. And I think I was expecting it to be more like that game, a little more RPG heavy and less kind of like a light RPG with these platforming elements. And it still is an RPG, but the RPG mechanics are very light, and I didn't really like that change, and it just wasn't what I expected it to be.
Okay, absolutely. All right,
no, totally fair. Yeah.
our next category that we thought of was a game that you were reluctant to play, but that surprised you. And Steven, we're back at you. So,
if it wasn't already on my top 5 list, I would make this Medieval.
Mm-hmm.
And I could also make a case for Gravity Rush, but I want to choose a different game.
Okay.
And I think this is also going to be a shocker, but I'm going to say Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, Shawn and I guess, chose this game kind of out of necessity. Shawn was kind of in the process of moving, so he didn't have all his systems. He's like, here are some games I have laying around. Let's pick one. And we settled on Space Marine. And it's a game that's been in my Steam library for years, and it's just one I always overlooked and never thought I'd play. And I didn't have very high expectations at all. Even you guys started the game before I did, and we're sending messages back and forth, kind of, complaining about certain things. So that was lowering my expectations even more. But and a lot of the points you guys make are true and valid. But I still overall I actually enjoyed the experience much more than I thought I would. So that's kind of one that surprised me.
All right.
That's cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I think you just have to take it for what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't a bad game. It was. I know I've kind of given it some negative press, but it's not a bad game. It's just one of those. I just wish, I don't know. At some point, I was like, I would just kind of like to be done with this game.
I mean, if I remember correctly, there was one thing you guys really, really loved about this game. Was it was if you got on a combo streak, or
was it like how you regained energy in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
health
was
by
different.
doing combos.
Yeah. That was kind of fun.
Like it seems like, I mean, because I didn't play this, I kind of just edited the show, and when I heard this, like, you guys were really into that component of the game.
Yeah.
Like, it was like that was the biggest incentive for you.
Yeah, it's kind of how you regain health in the game. It's there's just this sort of like
pulling off combos or
this
something.
combo that you do that are pretty wicked. That's like kind of slow time down.
Mm-hmm. So was it because you regained health, or the animations were really cool, or?
Yeah. They are. I mean, they become
a cool mechanic that you don't see very often. That's kind of why we harped on it.
Yeah, I had never seen it in the game before, but of course I'm not. I'm not a big modern gamer. I think
you're not
Shawn,
a big modern gamer yet.
No, I think Shawn had seen it in.
Remember Me? It was in.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Cool.
Next. That would be me, right? Reluctant to play, surprised. I'm gonna go the opposite of what Steven's biggest disappointment was, and say Paper Mario.
Okay.
I had done the playthrough and played Super Mario RPG, and for me, Paper Mario was a game that I was very reluctant to play, and I'll be honest, the reason for that is probably. Oh, I'm gonna get hate mail for this, but probably my least favorite system is the Nintendo 64. I'm just.
I don't really like it either.
You're not alone there. I don't think.
I think that's fair.
I probably own 12 to 15 games for that system, and that's it.
Well, you know what? That's 12 to 15 more than I own.
Yeah, and I understand. I mean, there is a particular generation that grew up on this system that loves it, and I completely get that, because I feel the same way about the Nintendo that these people feel about the Nintendo 64.
I just want to say that I grew up on the 64, but then you can say I saw the error of my ways, or I saw the light, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I moved over to the Sony camp.
Yeah.
And things were so much better there.
I agree. I feel like Sony did early 3D a lot better than what Nintendo did. And
not only early 3D, but like, intertwining of gameplay and story, and
there's no RPGs on the N64 besides Paper Mario, so that's
there
one
you go.
thing.
Well, Ogre Battle 64 was pretty awesome.
Oh, that's true. Good.
Can't
good
forget
point.
Quest 64.
Yes, you can.
But I understand why people wouldn't like this game. It's very lighthearted, and I still like had a lot of fun with it. It was, there were aggravating points in the game. I can, I can say it for a fact, but I still, I enjoyed my time with the game. And for an N64 game, for me to enjoy playing an N64 game, that's going to automatically make this list something that surprised me, because there are not a lot of N64 games that I've enjoyed playing. So
cool.
That's what made my list. So, but I thought it was fun. I thought there were some good things. I like the back and forth playing as Mario and then also playing as Princess Peach in the game. I thought that was a lot of fun. And I thought the story was pretty good too. So, all right.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, Shawn. Reluctant to play surprised you?
Right. Reluctant to play, but surprised me because I played so many games that I've played before. I was actually reluctant to play Tomb Raider 2013 again, despite the fact that I knew it was a great game and I love this game. I was reluctant to play it again because of the progression system, and I really thought it would be a slog to start from nothing at the beginning of the game and rebuild the character to being powerful towards the final third of the game or the end of the game. Mm-hmm. But much to my surprise, I found it as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, the second time around. Awesome. No worries about the progression system. Everything felt organic and natural, and I didn't feel handicapped in the beginning of the game. It's still a great game. You can play through it again, and I think I even mentioned this on the forum that if you had second thoughts about playing the game again because of that, don't worry about it. Just go for it because it's just as good the second time around. So I was surprised by that.
I think aside from the shoehorned RPG mechanics, which we really dug into, I like how the progression system was integrated into the story. You kind of start with nothing, and you get a flimsy bow, and then you become a better survivalist, and you get a better arsenal of weapons and techniques. Yeah, it was cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Shawn with this one. This was a replay for me also, and I actually enjoyed it more the second time through. I think that had a lot to do with my first playthrough being on the hard difficulty setting, and there was a lot of frustration with that, but I played it on normal this time, and yeah, the replay was a lot more enjoyable for me.
Cool.
All right. So we're moving into our final category. What game do you wish you would have played? So this is going to be a game that was one of our playthrough games this year.
I'll edit this out, but did I do my biggest surprise?
Yeah, what was it?
Yeah, I didn't do my biggest surprise,
did we skip you, Floyd?
Yes, you did.
Jeez.
I'll edit this out.
No.
The scotch is flowing.
It is flowing.
My biggest surprise was 50 Cent,
Yeah.
Were you reluctant to play it, honestly?
I kind of was,
Okay.
I thought
no, that's fair. I mean, we talked about
absolutely
it.
fair.
Yeah.
I thought 50 Cent, what's it going to be? I don't like rap music. I thought how are they going? And when we tossed the ideas around and we came across this game, I thought, how are they going to make a game about 50 Cent?
And there had been some made before, right?
Yeah, there was. I forget the
one or two others. Yeah,
the original Xbox had a game as well.
But anyway,
Bulletproof.
It just That's it. Bulletproof. Yeah, it baffled me how they could make a game based on this character. But then, playing this game, and you see how kind of 50 Cent is taken as, not a blank slate character, but, they're sort of well, let's take his persona and his attitude, and let's put him into this situation where he's in the Middle East, sort of generic Middle East, because I guess it couldn't be too specific. And, of course, I had to involve his music career somehow.
Sure.
Maybe that was somehow written into the contract of the game development process, but like you guys said, it's arcadey and it's over the top and it's fun, and I did not expect any of that when I booted it up for the first time.
No, man. Absolutely, man. I mean, like, when 50 Cent plays a concert in your country, pay that dude or he's going to bust some caps. I mean, that's how it is. Yeah. I mean, you know? And that's like the springboard for the entire game. It's so ridiculous. But it's so awesome. I mean, it was just so much fun.
It's so fun. And you took down the helicopter with your pistol.
Yeah, I did. I did. Oh, man. Awesome. Nice. All right. So, sorry we skipped you, Floyd, but...
So does that mean I get to do my wish I played, or...
No. No,
I'm kicked off the show.
We're going to start with Shawn on that. So, again, what game do you wish you would have played, but you didn't? You didn't play it this time. You're like, I wish I would have played that.
Yeah, this is hard to narrow down to just one. And I just want to say I wish I'd have played Shining Force and Paper Mario. That's not my answer, but I want to play those games, and I wish I'd have joined you guys. But
it's okay to have honorable mentions.
Yeah, no, my actual answer to this is Resident Evil Remake, because I am really regretful, remorseful, and I'm very sorry to Steven that I let him down for this playthrough, because nobody played this game with him. And I did my best on the podcast, but I made Steven carry the water the entire time we were on the air. So I wish I'd have played that. Did you kind of go off memory, or because I'm sure you've played you've played Resident Evil for sure. No, I never. You know what? I never completed the first one. I did my best. I played both the PS1 version and the GameCube game, just a tiny little bit, and I watched a lot of YouTube, and I tried to do my research. But this is why, I wish I'd have played the game, because Steven did a really good job on the show. It's one of his favorite games of all time, and I didn't really I didn't hold that in too much respect, and I'm sorry about that. So,
well, you know what, you pulled it off. Even
no, thanks.
You didn't play it, but you sound like you knew what you were talking about.
All right, cool. But yeah, that's my answer for that one.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing that I didn't attract any attention for this game, but I had fun with it.
I was shocked. I was shocked this game didn't get more attention. Do you think would have gotten more attention if we would have gone like Resident Evil 2? I know that's like sort of the introductory pinnacle of that series. I think Resident Evil 2 was the one that really pushed that series. You know, do you think we got more attention for that game, or?
Yeah, I don't even 2 or 4, but I would think the original should have gotten some traction. Yeah. Well, I really can't believe it didn't.
I think it's,
but I was part of the problem.
It's definitely a much beloved series.
Yeah.
Maybe that first game not so much, but I'm sure there are people who really love it. Look how many times it's been remade.
Yeah.
If it's been remade, 2 or 3 or 4 times. So
yeah,
people must really, really love that game.
Yeah. Some bad timing maybe on that. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. So next, that would be me. Game that you wish you would have played. Like Shawn, I'm gonna have to have an honorable mention in this one. I'm gonna have to say Mass Effect is probably my honorable mention in this category. I wish I would have played this with you guys. It would have been a really nice game to have played to introduce me to this series, and what a better time to play than with friends, Yeah. And I didn't do that, and I feel bad about that. I kind of come off Shining Force. That was kind of a big high, and tackle.
Well, but you know what? If you're coming out of Shining Force, it would be, unless you want to keep the ball rolling for these RPGs and really story heavy RPGs, maybe you'd be burned out if you played Mass Effect right after that.
Yeah, maybe so. And I guess, I was probably looking... I'd played... If you look at the schedule, I played Paper Mario RPG, and then Shining Force, and then I had Mega Man 2 and 3, Mega Man 2 I can breeze through, and then 3 I had not put a lot of time into in the past, and so that was a bit of a challenge for me, but I finished it. And then, to go like 3 RPGs like in 3 months would have been kind of tough. So that's my honorable mention anyway. I won't spend much time on that, but the game that I wish I would have played but didn't was Metal Gear Solid. And
I think that game is really special to you too, isn't it?
It is, and it's a wonderful game, and fantastic, and just to have been able to be on that podcast with you guys and to talk about that game would have been incredible. And
I think if we can go back to your honorable mention of Mass Effect and how you kind of regret missing out doing it playing it in a community sense. I guess you can play it and go back and listen to the show.
Yeah.
But definitely play it and then check out what this one YouTuber by the name of Noah Caldwell Gervais. He does a really super in-depth analysis of the whole series and how the games tie in, how one falls back on the other. He's definitely one of the most intelligent, well thought out, well written YouTubers out there. Like we already mentioned, George Weidman, Super Bunny Hop. Noah Gervais is somebody else you really have to check out if you're into in-depth video game analysis.
And Noah Gervais also did a series on Metal Gear, like the entire Metal Gear series. So
did he now?
Oh yeah.
Because I know he did Dragon Age. I know he did Fallout, which his in-depth look at Fallout got me interested in the series.
Yeah.
But I didn't know he did Metal Gear. I know definitely George Wheatman did.
Yep. So did Noah Gervais. Yeah, check him out, Rich. You would like both of those dudes.
Cool.
And if you love travel videos, he's got a great one.
Yeah, I really wish I'd have played Metal Gear Solid with you guys. I mean, it's a game that's very dear to my heart, and just to be able to talk about it with you guys would have just been, very extraordinary, and I feel, horrible, that I wasn't able to do that month. But of course, that was about that. I took on Indigo Prophecy, and just been coming off a little Nemo too, which was quite a challenge. But
that's a toughie. Yeah. Well, you know what, Rich? We're always here.
Beating the original Metal Gear. It's one from my childhood, so I'm very love series for me. So.
I was just going to say, we're always here. We're always a text message away. If you ever do play it, we're there for you, buddy.
Absolutely. So, all right. So next, Floyd. I'm not going to skip you this time.
All right.
So you were after Steven last time, and I guess I just kind of skipped over you. I was excited about getting my pick out. So, what game do you wish you would have played?
Wish I played. I really, really tried to narrow this down to one game, but I simply couldn't. And so I've got two. I know it's kind of breaking the rules, but I've got two games for my really wish I played. And I wish I played them each game for different reasons, but they each hold the same sort of value personally for me. And the first one is Spec Ops: The Line, because I like that sort of introspective, self-aware games with a message kind of thing. Not to sound pretentious, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Games that are trying to say something, do something, kind of break the mold.
Right.
That's why I wish I played Spec Ops: The Line. And my other one is Indigo Prophecy, because I love what David Cage, I won't say does, but I will say what he tries to do.
Yeah, and you're the reason I picked that game. You know that, right? Because you brought it up like several months earlier before we picked games like this game Indigo Prophecy. We should play this sometimes, and I think like that same afternoon, like I went out to my local game store, and they had a copy of it. And I picked it up and I read the back cover and was like, oh, it sounds so awesome. I'm like, that's why I picked that game. And, at that point, that wasn't a game that you had to play because you had switched sides. And so, so you didn't have to play that game, and I understand, but it would have been cool to have you play that game with us.
Oh yeah, and I will sit through it. I will play it. But I mean, I love what David Cage tries to do. And I like how, at least in the sense of modern gaming, there's a sense of, player agency and, player control over where the game goes and role playing, putting yourself in the shoes of that character. I think David Cage does that really well. Like Quantic Dream does that really well.
I think you should do Heavy Rain in March, honestly.
We'll see.
There's been talk. Spoiler.
Foreshadowing.
I love that he like Quantic Dream, David Cage, whatever his games allow the players to create their own experience and create their own game and let it unfold the way they want it to, which no game ever since has done. I mean, like, you look at maybe like games like Walking Dead or The Wolf Among Us, they will unfold sort of the way you make them unfold. But like even like games with branching dialogue trees or branching events, it's just sort of like a binary, A or B. But at least with David Cage's work, when you make a choice, you feel like this is my personal choice and this is my personal outcome based on what I did. And so like his work becomes so personal to the player. I think it's, amazing for a video game to be able to do that.
Very cool.
Right on.
Yeah, wish we would have had you playing that and can understand like why you would have missed that. So, All right. So, last but not least, what's up with this? I mean, we let this guy go first, and now we're letting him go last.
That's right.
Jeez.
He's the man, the king of rage.
We make the rules, and then we break the rules.
He is the king of rage. All right, come on, Steven. All right, what game do you wish you would have played?
The game I wish I played is Mass Effect.
Okay.
Wait, have you ever played it?
A little bit.
Oh, you never. Oh man.
Wait, what's a little bit? I want to know what a little bit is. I've talked to you about
this before. It's I tried to play Mass Effect when it first came out, and a couple times over the years, and I just really could not get into it.
Okay, I do remember. Yeah.
But I have since played Mass Effect 2 and 3, and I love those games, and I think I would probably rank Mass Effect 2 in probably maybe my top 20 or 25 games of all time. So since then, I've always wanted to go back and replay the first game. The community playthrough would have been a good way to do it, but I was kind of busy hosting the Mega Man playthrough, and it's Mass Effect's kind of a big, involved game, so I'd...
Yeah, well, that was, to put it lightly, that was a hell of a month.
Yeah.
3 monster games, right?
Yeah.
So
I always hope that if I go back and revisit the first game after playing those second two, that I would have a newfound appreciation for it, but I'll have to try to do that sometime.
And it's not a big time investment. It's only about 10 hours long. So.
Yeah.
He was too busy playing
like I said about those rabbit holes, right? Just depends on how deep you want to go in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Right on.
All right. Cool. Wrap up our top games for 2015, and enjoyed it, guys. Again, fantastic year, and really looking forward to 2016. And speaking of 2016, I'm going to let Shawn tell you a little bit about what we're going to be playing in January.
All right, so we're trying to kick it off with a bang, and you catch more bees with honey. So I engineered a playthrough that no collector can say no to. We're gonna play two of the most amazing games of the 2D era in 1 month. We're playing Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES, and we're gonna play Super Mario World for the Super NES, and we are gonna settle the debate. This phony internet debate over which game
What do you mean phony?
Was there ever a debate? Wait.
So yeah, please, as always, log on to rfgeneration.com, go to the community playthrough subforum, check out, there's already a thread there, and join in. We already have people signed up, and we're more than 20 days out from the new year, so Let's do this. Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, going head to head. Who can say no to that?
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Very nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the new year. I guess the only downside to the new year is and consolidating to one podcast is getting to pick less games. But the good thing is that with every game that we pick, we actually kind of run it past one another, and then we kind of decide as a group as far as which game we're going to play. And we've already we're all really giddy about what we're going to be playing in the new year. So there's already been some ideas thrown forward about what the next games are going to be, and let's just say it looks like a lot of fun, and looking very forward to it, guys. So let's here's to a great 2016.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
It's gonna be a great year.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff.